This is Lingaland, a world surrounded by a wall. This wall conceals the land, protects, nurtures, and maintains it. The wall is God, the foundation of Lingaland. Lingaland is divided into two nations, one proud of its intelligence, Supreme Ludo, and the other honoring courage, the Republic of Rekka. On that fateful day, Rekka's supreme diviner, Shouai, saw an omen. He saw the sign of the phoenix, and it would fall to the east of Jintosho near the Ludo border. He immediately sent Ren to request the Emperor's permission to deploy and seize that place. However, the man on this screen believes that is unnecessary. He finds Shouai's prediction very accurate. He is General Kai. This time he will act. If it's the sign of the phoenix, there must be treasure inside. Kai orders his troops forward. He tramples over all creatures, walking toward the red box. Inside are bind warpers, making the battle with Ludo easier. Kai guesses the Emperor will be pleased with this. Suddenly, a giant beam of light connects straight from the ground to the sky, and inside the light, a giant appears. He calls Kai's group thieves from the Republic of Rekka. That giant is Ludo's Brihite. It's surprising that Ludo arrived so quickly. Fearing Ludo forces will seize this place, Kai requests reinforcements. Shouai reassures everyone to trust Kai. He will protect Rekuho. Kai picks up the bind warpers, ready to fight. He is the invincible general of the Republic of Rekka, Kai Roden. He immediately transforms into a Brihite. Other soldiers from Ludo quickly transform too. They came only to claim Rekuho. Kai sees all these guys are exactly the same. Brihite is the embodiment of one's belief. Yet these guys blindly believe in mass replication. He thinks they're not worthy of touching Rekuho. So Kai single-handedly defeats Ludo's entire army. Shouai can't help but marvel at this. Shouai's signal indicates there's another Rekuho to retrieve, even though Rekuho only appears once a month. This time the location is the wasteland of Ikki. No one lives there, and Kai cannot send troops because this land isn't under their sovereignty. So Kai returns, and it's Shouai's turn to act. Ren warns that the Emperor will be very angry. The issue isn't just the second Rekuho, but they've never seen such a sign before. This situation is unprecedented, so Shouai should ask the Emperor's permission before going. But Shouai doesn't have much time. Someone like him can create precedents. At Edger village in Ikki territory, two people are hunting. This boy fearfully hides behind the girl. After hunting and gathering, the group returns. Children play and run behind. One accidentally slips and falls off a cliff. But this blue-haired girl uses an elastic rope to pull her up, even letting her swing a few rounds. She is Atli. Back at the village, the boy from earlier shows off the meat he hunted. The village elder appears. They haven't met their quota, hunting so much but catching only one animal. This year seems more difficult than previous years. With only a little meat, the boy blames himself for being incompetent. Atli thinks having something is better than nothing. Shouai is on his way, with Ren accompanying him. Her mission is to support and protect the Supreme Diviner. A metal object lands in the village, speeding recklessly and destroying this boy's house. The villagers don't understand why Rekuho, the treasure from heaven, would land here. The angry boy kicks it because his house was destroyed. The villagers are excited and curious, thinking there will be food inside and they'll have a feast. Ren and Shouai land in Ikki territory. Observing from afar, they see villagers celebrating like at a festival. The boy asks the elder for permission to open the treasure. It turns out they're cooking Rekuho. Ren thinks it's risky to approach and suggests continuing to observe. The boy excitedly breaks open Rekuho. The sister quickly warns that there's no food inside, but it's already opened. From inside, a young man jumps out, kicks the boy, and curses him for being crazy enough to cook him. The village children surround him, trying to bite him, thinking he's food. Shouai is surprised to find a person inside Rekuho and remarks that this magnificent world still holds many mysteries. The young man struggles with the children to prove he's not food. That evening, the whole village interrogates him like a job interview. He can't remember who he is. The only thing he remembers is coming from beyond the wall. He wants people to help him return, but everyone thinks this is ridiculous. The entire world is within the wall, so there can't be anything outside. This is a countryside where the wall is far away. The wall is the end of land, the boundary protecting this world. The young man insists on going to the wall to return. Shouai observes from above, beginning to question the wall and the origin of Rekuho. Ren beside him firmly states, it's a gift from the wall, a very mechanical answer. She considers the young man a heretic and begins drawing her weapon. A vehicle approaches the villagers, perhaps bandits hunting for Rakuho. He immediately transforms into a Brehite and threatens to destroy the village if they don't hand over Rakuho. The frightened villagers point to the young man, wanting the bandit to take him away. The bandit doesn't think this man could be the Rakuho treasure, so he goes berserk, firing destructive shots, making villagers flee in chaos. The brave young man steps forward, identifying himself as coming from beyond the wall, asking the bandit to help him return. Seeing him naked, the bandit refuses to listen and throws him back toward the girl. Atli gives him her father's old underwear to wear, while she picks up the hot item, preparing to transform. She is the daughter of the village's former police chief. When her father died, she thought it was her turn to take on the responsibility. She accepts she might die if defeated in Brehite form. The bandit is surprised to find a bind warper in this remote countryside, the thing that connects belief with humans to transform them into giants. Atli charges forward but gets tied up. The bandit also has belief, showing no mercy to escapees. The more she struggles, the stronger he becomes. People beg Atli to cancel her Brehite form or she'll die. As a bind warper user, she's confirmed as the controller. No one can use that bind warper if she's alive. This means the bandit will kill Atli to take the bind warper. Seeing the dangerous situation, the young man quickly crawls back into Rakuho. He searches and takes out another bind warper. Since Atli risked her life to give him underwear, he'll risk his life to save her. Then he transforms into a super giant form. Atli returns to human form. The young man falls off the cliff, with the bandit pursuing. The bandit tries to attack him but fails. Surprisingly, this young man is someone without belief. The bandit loses in Brehite form but doesn't disappear. Though not understanding, Shouai finds it very interesting. The bandit drives away, while the young man stays with the villagers. He introduces himself as Back Arrow from now on. On that fateful day, a young man fell from the sky to the remote village of Edger in Iki. This young man, who had lost his memory, controlled a Brehite without needing any belief. He said he came from beyond the wall. To Lingaland residents, this was absurd. His name is Arrow, Back Arrow. Villagers clamor for him to reveal his real name, while he playfully uses underwear to mess with the bind warper. Atli shyly asks him to put on pants, so he puts on underwear, wears the bind warper on his arm, and transforms into a Brehite. Then he rushes toward the wall. He is determined to cross it. Shouai also tells Ren to chase after him immediately. Suddenly Atli feels a terrible headache. Despite going on and on, Arrow still can't get closer to the wall. Exhausted, he falls to his knees, returning to human form. He's very hungry, wishing food would fall from the sky. Shouai appears, explaining that the wall is much larger than Arrow thinks. It looks close but takes a month to reach. Shouai introduces himself, then remarks that Arrow is extraordinary for staying in Brehite form for over 5 hours, guessing Arrow has a special belief. Most people can only last 1 or 2 hours. Arrow isn't sure either, as this is only his second transformation. Shouai wants to confirm if he really comes from beyond the wall and is curious about what's there. Arrow doesn't remember but guesses he'll know after returning. Ren argues loudly, claiming that the so-called beyond the wall doesn't exist. Shouai calmly says such a reaction is quite normal. For people like them, the wall surrounds, nurtures, and protects the land. In this Lingaland, people believe the world is contained entirely within the wall. As for Shouai, he considers himself a genius with his own path. This wall is 10,000 gent high, while he's only 1.78 gent tall, meaning the wall is 5,678 times taller than him. He wants Arrow to imagine 5,678 Shoubis stacked on top of each other. Finding this nonsense, Arrow punches Shouai. Ren rushes to attack, but Arrow easily dodges. Though Shouai confuses him, Arrow knows he can kick away someone like Ren, but not 5,678 people like Shouai. Ren attacks again, thinking Arrow is talking nonsense. Shouai throws a ham to block Ren's arrow. He praises Arrow's unique communication style and invites him to share the ham. Arrow doesn't hesitate and takes it to eat. Shouai will help Arrow fly over the wall, but in return, he needs Arrow to wait a few days. Stars being heaven's borders and tower walls being world's edges, Shouai can't believe such logic. Based on how Shouai talks, Arrow thinks he can trust this person. At the village, Atli has gradually recovered to normal. Brehite reveals strength through one person's will. She shouldn't awaken it continuously after just the first time. Bit boasts about being experienced in this village. Atli wants to find Arrow, knowing he won't be able to cross the wall even in Brihite form. So she kicks the door open. Unexpectedly, outside is Arrow sleeping soundly. Children explain that a scary woman returned him here while Shouai and Ren went back. Ren instructs Shouai not to mention Arrow or the world beyond the wall to Ludo court and the Emperor if he doesn't want trouble. When they meet Kai again, who's searching for the second treasure, he misunderstands they're on a late-night date. Seeing scratches on Shouai's face, Kai guesses he did something to Ren to get slapped. Shouai only replies he'll explain after another day. Kai just reminds Shouai to be careful. The next morning, Arrow begins integrating into village life. Children run around him, curious about his new clothes. Those clothes were brought by Atli, the village's female police chief, and sewn by Bit. Arrow appreciates the good clothes, while Bit says if Arrow really wants to thank him, he should help repair the destroyed house. Unfortunately, Arrow's skills are limited and materials are scarce. Elsha, the village huntress, doesn't trust newcomers. She shows a cautious attitude and asks Arrow to follow her. She leads him through forests and mountains, showing him the poor and struggling life of a small village caught between two large warring nations. Elsha says if he stays, he'll only bring more danger to the village. Arrow understands they want him to leave but doesn't blame them. Bit quietly gives him some dried food, saying that's all they can share. Meanwhile, Shouai has forged the king's seal to access forbidden areas to discover the truth about this world. He discovers that the bandits who attacked the village earlier belonged to Ludo. The surviving thief returns to report that the magic ring was broken, but he survived. Ludo's princess, a peace lover, upon hearing this, wants to learn more. She believes if there's a way to stop the war, she must know. So she orders messengers to find someone named Arrow. The messengers send a letter to Iki's president, requesting Arrow's surrender if possible. That evening, many hunted animals are brought back by Arrow himself to thank everyone. While villagers are rejoicing, Ludo soldiers suddenly arrive. They demand to search the village for Arrow. When they don't find him, the president orders the entire village destroyed. Soldiers start shooting, forcing Atli to fight to protect the villagers. Elsha runs to Arrow's former house to find any remaining rings. Atli is severely injured. Elsha has found another ring. She puts it on, her body glows and transforms, but unfamiliar with the power, she loses balance and falls into a deep pit. Bit tries to escape and accidentally discovers Arrow sleeping in a well. He's hiding there to keep his promise to Shouai not to leave the village. When hearing gunshots, Arrow wakes up. He puts on the ring, light envelops his body. Then he leaps out of the well, transforms into a giant form, and charges into battle. Elsewhere, Shouai has reached the forbidden area where ancient texts are kept. He begins reading and learning the true history of this world. Meanwhile, Elsha hears a voice in her head, guiding her to connect with the armor Arrow is using. Arrow on the battlefield launches fierce attacks, defeating the commander. The ring breaks again, but the enemy survives. Reading the final lines, Shouai is horrified to discover the truth that Arrow is a guardian from beyond the wall. Once he fully awakens and remembers everything, this world will be destroyed. The situation is very chaotic, with earth and rocks continuously collapsing and protruding. Even Elsha doesn't understand what's happening. She has escaped from the cave, but now she's positioned too high to climb down. The frightened soldier runs away, complaining that being a soldier wasn't meant for this. Bit stops him. At the capital of the Republic of Rekka, the Emperor praises Kai for doing well in capturing Rekuho and eliminating Ludo forces. With the pile of bind warpers in hand, Rekka is confident that Ludo will always be at a power disadvantage compared to them. The Emperor orders these bracelets to be equipped to all soldiers. They wear the rings, using belief to transform. The Emperor wants these warriors to reveal their deepest beliefs. When transformed, all Brihites look identical. The official beside him thinks that standing before the Emperor, they all share the same belief, thus creating identical extraordinary warriors. The Emperor wonders why Kai's Brihite differs from the other soldiers. He has named it Gigan. Then he questions where the second Rekuho is, mentioning that Shouai is also pursuing Rekuho. He orders Kai to inform Shouai that he's waiting for his report, because Ren let slip. Kai knows about the person inside Rekuho. Irritated, Kai grabs Shouai's clothes, demanding to know what he's hiding. But since he himself isn't clear, Shouai is still investigating. He suspects there might be something else that could destroy the world based on what he read in the Forbidden Archives. Learning that Shouai entered there, Kai becomes angrier. Kai warns Shouai not to be reckless. They grew up near the northern wall, struggling from nothing to reach their current positions. They have many enemies, like the Chancellor. Shouai and Kai promised to change Rekka together, and Kai doesn't want him to forget that promise. Kai thinks Shouai and Ren make a good match and hopes they'll soon head to the altar. Ren blushes, explaining they're just colleagues. Kai is only joking. He hopes Shouai won't anger the Emperor and will report to him soon. After the battle, Arrow looks at the ship, wanting to use it to reach the wall. However, the ship can only fly with Elsha's Brihite. Looking at the devastated village he caused, Arrow feels very guilty, but still wants to return. When talking with Shouai, he realizes he can't reach the wall alone. But he's the protagonist with the power of friendship, and his friends are the people from Edger village. The village elder is reading a report. Elsha's Brihite is the hardest. Growing up at the border made her very tough. As for Arrow, apart from his memories, villagers see no issues with him. The elder thinks his only problem is the delusion of coming from beyond the wall. Bit is chatting with the enemy commander. He wants Atli to help call the elder and other villagers. He doesn't want this guy stuck here forever. Seeing Bit as a super patriot, the commander feels fortunate. He encourages that Bit will become a hero someday. When Arrow wakes up, he finds villagers surrounding him, and Bit has taken his bind warper. To live elsewhere, the whole village must hand it over. The president promised everyone. Elsha is tearful. They've reached a dead end. Edger village is no more. That night, while Super Patriot Bit is watching Arrow, Super Rebel Atli comes to force him to release Arrow. She doesn't want her benefactor in danger. She will save him. Elsha appears from behind, pointing a gun, forcing Atli to stop. She thinks sacrifice is part of life. The commander says he'll only hand Arrow over to Ludo, not kill him. Arrow interrupts the conversation. He won't run away. If he runs, everyone will blame Atli. He wants to cross the wall, but doesn't want anyone implicated. He asks about Elsha's dream of protecting the village, as the commander might be lying to her. Only she can move that giant ship, a power no one else has. After the protagonist's mind-changing technique, Elsha wavers. Then everyone boards the ship to a new home, Arrow imprisoned in a cage, while the commander prances around with his bind warper. Atli is very disappointed with the village. All she does is live in regret for not being able to help someone she owes. The ship lands, and the commander hands over Arrow and his bind warper to his superior. As promised by the president, villagers will be moved to a new place with fertile land like a promised land, while Arrow will be handed to Ludo. Bit asks permission to join the army, and like a lead bull, he personally blows up the ship carrying his own villagers, burying them under earth and rocks. The president considers this necessary to save Iki territory. The presence of Edger village and the ship must be erased. The president doesn't want Rekka and Ludo fighting on his territory. Now Bit realizes he's been deceived. This is politics. Methods can't be overlooked to survive. The president wants to shoot Super Patriot Bit, but a rock flies straight into the commander's head. Bit seizes the opportunity to grab the bind warper and throws it to Arrow, begging him to save everyone. Arrow transforms, places Bit on his shoulder, and returns to Elsha. So everyone is saved. The commander asks the president for a bind warper, promising to bring down the ship and capture Arrow. He also transforms. Atli quickly moves to block him. Her belief this time is that she can do it. She collaborates with Arrow to defeat that commander. Then villagers surround the president, warning him not to harm them. He surrenders, begging everyone to leave his country. If this village stays, Iki will collapse. They've been abandoned by their country. So they board the ship again, preparing for a new journey. Shouai and Kai report to the Emperor about Arrow. According to prophecy, both he and the battleship must be eliminated. Shouai volunteers for this mission. Concerned about diplomatic relations with larger nations, the president of Iki territory attacked Arrow and the battleship. However, Elsha and friends escaped his trap and are heading to the wall with Arrow. Meanwhile, in the Republic of Rekka, one of the two superpowers, Shouai has proposed to personally eliminate Arrow. 15 years ago, in a village near the northern wall of the Republic of Rekka, Shouai and Kai were among children being handcuffed and escorted. Kai was defiant, not wanting to be treated like livestock, but to the soldiers, he had no right to speak. Because the village couldn't pay taxes, they sold the children for money and food. So Shouai accepted that he was only worth livestock, or even less. Villagers only watched from afar, fearing the government and abandoning the children. Because Kai talked too much, he immediately received a slap from a soldier. The children's meals were worse than animal feed. Their shelter had no roof, exposed to the elements. This was where strong people were found to become soldiers for Rekka. Kai couldn't accept this. Shu calmly advised him to abandon thoughts of escape, because even if they got out, they could only become bandits. Currently, they were just slaves, but if they could prove themselves, Shu thought the capital would notice them. He was certain both would succeed together. The more impossible something seemed, the more he wanted to do it. So the two kids determined that someday they would make this Republic of Rekka their own. Currently, they both have positions in the court. Shouai is taking a walk. This is his first invasion. He might not see the capital again. Kai is slightly annoyed. Shouai reassures him, saying he's not someone who would endanger himself. He also doesn't let Kai come along, fearing Kai would take all the credit. That chancellor is the problem. Shouai needs to build his own reputation for their grand ambition to change this country from within. The four demons, powerful lost mercenaries who can take down battleships, will help them. The chancellor will have to be silent. However, that's not Shouai's only intention. He's always like that, curious about the unknown. It turns out Kai sees through him completely. Because Kai is Rekka's trump card, Shouai wants him to stay put and let him handle everything. For their northern wall promise. In the neutral zone between the Republic of Rekka and the Ludo Empire, an attack from enemies erupts. The battle is extremely fierce. Finally, the invaders accomplish their goal, destroying 6 Brihites and 1 cannon in just 5 minutes. Next, they'll work as mercenaries for the chief astrologer. It turns out they're the mercenaries Shouai plans to use against the battleship. This is Lingaland's map obtained from Ikki's president. The place is basically divided into 2 halves. The western shore is Rekka and the eastern shore is Ludo. There are also small countries like Ikki territory. From Desert Town, the wall at the end is the southern wall. But that direction is all hills and mountains. They think Granger is too large to squeeze through. The bespectacled man has thought of a way, following the north of the neutral zone. There's a walking path between Rekka and Ludo for merchants to freely use for movement. Being a neutral zone, Atli's group usually uses established trading points, exchanging food and necessities for money and sheepskin. Though a bit far, it's the safest route to the wall without involving Rekka and Ludo. Before coming to Edger a year ago, the doctor had been to many places, gaining much knowledge. Previously, the village had never had any scholars, so the doctor was very welcome. Suddenly, Rekka's soldiers approached them. Having asked permission from Ikki's president, Rekka has full right to engage in battle. Since they're only attacking the battleship, he won't consider it provocation, which also means Ikki has abandoned Edger village. Ren shoots an arrow, sending Edger a video from the Republic of Rekka's emperor. He believes those who dare cross the wall are disrupting Lingaland's order. In the name of the wall's will, he sends Rekka warriors to eliminate them. He needs no negotiations. The Rekka army charges forward. Bit immediately goes to the control station. The doctor thinks they can hide in the trading city. So Arrow and the 2 girls quickly transform. Arrow will handle the small fry while Atli gathers their information. Elsha pilots the battleship forward. Her battleship quickly crushes Rekka's tiny ships. Shouai sends the 4 demons mercenaries into action. They quickly transform. With a strange spray, the Granger battleship stops functioning. Arrow and Atli buy time for everyone to think of a plan. While the 2 fight the 4 mercenaries, Shouai also drives over to greet them. Clearly, he had promised to help Arrow cross the wall. Now he sends people to fight, confusing Arrow. Shouai once said it would benefit him, so he also wants Arrow to trust him if it benefits Arrow. Shouai's words are incomprehensible. With that, Shouai wishes Arrow good luck and leaves. Before fighting, the 4 demons introduce themselves, then dive into combat. Shouai stands outside cheering. Ren feels lucky that her boss isn't actually a traitor. At the Ludo Empire, the battle situation is being updated and reported. Atli and Arrow's group is losing because the enemy's belief is too strong. Elsha steps forward to fight together, but she's immediately kicked down and beaten. This is the power of the infamous 4 demons team trained by Shouai. Suddenly Arrow creates multiple copies of himself, simultaneously charging forward to defeat the 4 demons team, avenging their earlier mockery calling him a chicken. Afterwards, Arrow complains to the 2 girls that he's very tired. If one has only one belief, they'll transform into just 1 Brihite. But with no belief, the power is limitless. Since Arrow comes from beyond the wall, nothing is impossible. The prophecy about the world's end might also be true. Ren orders all troops to transform to fight Arrow. But very quickly, they're defeated. Shouai locks Ren in the car, apologizing for causing trouble. Then he goes to Arrow and announces surrender. From the beginning, he was only assessing whether Arrow was worthy of joining him. So Arrow has passed Shoubai's test, which also means he's destroying the world. To do that, Arrow needs someone with brains. Shouai will become that person. He wants Ren to return to Rekka and report to the king that he has become a traitor. The 4 demons have also withdrawn. Shouai is brought back to join the team, but he's always tied up and strictly guarded. The first task is to repair the battleship. The reason it doesn't run is due to liquid metal flowing beneath the ground. Down there, liquid metal forms a network of currents, flows strong enough to repel certain metals. Both war horses and battleships utilize this repulsive force to move. The 4 demons separation spray disrupted this repulsive force. The spray's effect will wear off after about an hour. But now things are just beginning. They'll face even tougher enemies. Bit feels he can't trust Shouai because they were betrayed once before. Edger Village needs him to prove himself. Ren returns to Rekka, reporting to Kai that Shouai has turned traitor. Hearing this news, Kai is shocked. Ren returns to report to Kai about Shoubai's betrayal, leaving Kai shocked and frozen. Meanwhile, Shouai is led to a place that visibly excites him. 10 years ago, people were frantically searching for Rekuho because it had fallen somewhere nearby. With many rebel factions around, they needed to find it quickly. Shouai calmly walked around while Kai quickly deflected a soldier's blow aimed at him. They wanted them to find Rekuho quickly. They were just slaves. If useless, they wouldn't be fed. Kai and Shu ran away. Shu disagreed with this plan. Though they could run all day, Rekuho wasn't in this area. Based on Shoubai's calculations using signs, speed, angle, and wind force, Rekuho had fallen to the south. Kai invited Shouai to search with him. The two would risk their lives to advance. Finally, they found Rekuho. A group of rebel soldiers stopped them. Kai took responsibility, saying he alone could quell them. Quickly, Kai beat them all to pulp. When Rekka's regular army arrived, they all pointed spears at Kai and Shouai. Shouai explained they weren't enemies. The rebels came looking for Rekuho and confronted them. Since they were just commoners without access to the emperor, the official ordered both killed. As the sword swung toward Kai, Shouai stepped in to block it for him. Even as commoner trash, they had eliminated the rebels. He couldn't accept that Rekka would still let them die. The emperor appeared, stopping the official. Shoubai's group had accomplished what an entire army couldn't. The emperor ordered them to raise their heads and state their names. The two looked at each other and smiled. They had achieved their goal. Back to the present, Kai has received the emperor's orders and is preparing to investigate everything. On Shoubai's side, the ship is running again. He remarks that the doctor is truly a genius. How fortunate to have someone knowledgeable about Rekuho technology on this ship. The battleship's operating system seems similar to theirs in Rekka. Finding him talking too much nonsense, Bit begins to get annoyed. Shouai came here to solve all mysteries. He must hurry before facing trouble with worse enemies. Just as he finishes speaking, the control room announces an enemy, but only one. Finally, the person Shouai was waiting for has arrived. Though alone, Kai is as strong as 1,000 Brihites. Everyone finds this absurd, still thinking no one can defeat Arrow. Elsha confidently believes she could crush Kai too. With just one kick, Kai makes the entire battleship sway. He can stop Granger. Shouai had warned about this, that Kai is the strongest general of the Republic of Rekka. Kai kicks again, demanding Shouai come out to talk. Elsha stubbornly continues fighting. The village elder shouts for her to remove the warper or she'll die. Elsha reluctantly obeys. Inside the ship, Arrow wants everyone to stay put while he takes action. Shouai asks Dr. Sola to turn on the external speakers, telling Kai he's in the control room. Kai responds, wanting Shouai to answer him. He has disregarded the Emperor's orders, left Rekka, joined with enemies from outside. Shouai admits this was his plan all along. Rekka is a sinking ship. He wanted Kai and himself to help it rise again. However, Shouai has found a new ship named Granger. From now on, Back Arrow and Granger are his dream. Kai is very upset, thinking his friend has lost his mind. He will destroy this battleship. Arrow steps outside, declaring he'll handle everything. Arrow transforms, becoming the rumored Brihite without belief. Kai finds this form quite hideous. Arrow reminds Kai to introduce himself before combat. Kai reluctantly complies. In just one blow, Arrow is knocked down. He replicates himself infinitely and finds Kai's weakness. Unfortunately, against an opponent like Kai, all attacks are harmless. Kai's belief cannot be crushed by someone he doesn't know. Kai wants Shouai to come to his senses. Atli runs outside, not wanting to watch Arrow die. Bit scolds Shouai that everything is his fault. Kai appeared only because Shouai came. Shouai denies this, saying he came because they couldn't defeat Kai without him. The village elder believes he and Arrow are both cursed. He wants them to leave Edger in peace. Even if Shouai and Arrow leave, the villagers will still be attacked. The Emperor believes this battleship is very concerning. People cannot return to their lives as before. Since leaving the village, everyone's fate has changed forever. Hearing this, the elder orders Bit to untie Shouai. Shouai asks the doctor for help, as he's the quickest to understand. To save everyone, Sola needs to follow Shouai's instructions exactly. Shouai steps forward, telling everyone to stop transforming, including Kai. Arrow is helped inside by the two girls. He never expected someone so strong. Though they hate to admit it, they can only rely on Shouai. Shouai approaches Kai, saying he will leave Rekka. Due to his selfishness, Rekka has lost much authority. The reason Rekka could collect warpers faster than Ludo or rebels was thanks to Shouai's formula predicting Rekuho landing points. Shouai thinks he has helped Rekka enough. Kai reminds him of their northern wall promise. 5 years ago, the Emperor ordered Rekka's warriors to use transformation armor. He thought all soldiers would again look identical. But no, Kai's form was completely different. The Emperor asked Kai about his belief and name. He called himself Kai with the belief of invincibility. He was confident he would be the solid rock protecting the country. Thus, Kai's Brehite was named. The Emperor also recognized Kai as that boy he found years ago. He saw Kai had grown much stronger and wanted him to serve Rekka. 3 years ago, Kai had risen to general, while Shouai had entered the profession. Shouai wanted Kai to wait for him. He would become chief astrologer in 1 year. Together they would change this country. The magnificent capital below was unlike the village where they struggled to eat. Together, they would fix this corrupt Rekka. Kai drew his knife, cutting a wound on his own hand. He would never forget the pain from the sword blow Shouai had taken for him. This would be their promise. Now reopening the old wound, Kai just wanted Shouai not to forget that promise. But Shouai calmly said his wound had healed because he recovers very quickly. Helpless, Kai burst into laughter. He grabbed Shouai. Kai wants to change this country, while Shouai wants to change the entire world. To do so, Kai isn't the person he needs. Kai doesn't understand why Shouai would bet on someone weaker than him. Shouai has never liked gambling. He chooses the side with better chances. Kai reluctantly accepts. He will take Shouai's life for Rekka's benefit. Bit from behind points a gun, forcing Kai to stand still. He doesn't care that Kai is Rekka's general. Thinking without a Brehite, Kai is useless. He orders Kai to drop his weapons. Kai finds this stupid. Naive Bit still doesn't understand the situation. Kai could defeat Bit with just one finger. Next, Kai intends to finish Shouai. Arrow has recovered and rushes to block a blow for Shouai. Arrow seizes the opportunity to transform. Kai quickly follows suit. He has fallen into Shouai's trap. Dr. Sola has fired. The cannon they just upgraded can shoot all the way to the capital. Kai still doesn't believe it, so Shouai orders another shot, landing right in the palace. The Forbidden Archives stated this battleship could destroy the world. Shouai warns that if Kai still wants to confront them, they will burn the entire capital and palace. Kai finds Shouai truly despicable. Shouai raises his fan, warning Kai to stay away unless he wants the capital to become a pile of fire. Kai angrily charges forward but is blocked by Arrow and subjected to his mind-changing technique. Kai reluctantly retreats, returning. From now on, the two are officially enemies instead of friends. Kai has been deceived. Shouai's wound actually remains. Arrow doesn't care much, as he just wants to go home. The explosion earlier was preset by Shouai in the capital. That cannon only fired air shells. It was all Shouai's strategy, but they must quickly reach the wall before Rekka discovers this trick. The Chancellor has reported everything to the Emperor. Kai is with Ren. Ren will now serve Kai because she wants to see the traitor Shouai pay. Elsha has been driving for 3 hours without rest, so she's hallucinating, seeing handsome men and losing steering control. Everyone advises her to rest a bit, as normally humans can only drive continuously for 1-2 hours. But Shouai doesn't allow her to rest. They must act quickly before Rekka's army arrives. The village elder still wants Elsha to stop. They didn't leave the village for her to suffer like this. However, Elsha is completely voluntary. Arrow doesn't understand why everyone values the village so much. Having lost his memories, he no longer knows what's important. Feeling sorry for Elsha, Shouai rolls up his sleeves to help her. Bit points a gun demanding they stop. He doesn't trust Shouai. Arrow suggests Bit become Shubai's boss since he can order him around. Finding this interesting, Shouai immediately elevates Bit to Admiral. He asks Bit, in his role as Admiral, whether he should activate the residual belief system based on Elsha's current condition. With permission granted, he activates it, allowing Elsha to cancel her Brihite form. Finally, thanks to military belief, Elsha gradually regains consciousness. Bit doesn't know how they'll continue without Elsha. When a battleship drifts, it keeps moving until stopped, Shouai explains. Belief works the same way. Unless something intervenes, the ship will continue moving if the controllers will remain. This is called residual belief. Finding the kids too noisy, the village elder orders everyone to be quiet, so everyone leaves. The elder takes Elsha's hand. Her eyes slowly open. Since this battleship is 1,000 gent long, people can comfortably drive vehicles inside. This ship is fully equipped with everything. The operating system is similar to Rekka's ships but simpler. Sola guesses this ship is the original model. Pleased that someone understands him, Shouai is very happy. Villagers can also wash and hang clothes in the evening. The weapons on board are 10,000 times better than their guns. Everyone finds this amazing. At the palace, Kai has locked himself away. He must humiliate himself to increase his belief strength. Defense Minister Kaio approaches, blaming Ren for not recognizing Shouai as a traitor despite being beside him all day. She must also take responsibility for letting Shouai escape. Annoyed, Kai points out that this minister is like them, responsible for weapon development right beside Shouai. Chancellor T has promoted him to chief astrologer. His upcoming job is to clean up the mess Shouai created. Last night, the emperor left to deal with rebels in the west, making the chancellor the highest authority in the capital. Ren volunteers for battle, but T has refused to deploy the army until the capital is secure. Ren still wants to make Shu pay, but Kaio says that's not her business. Her fate will be decided in 3 days. Currently, she has no duties, but if she leaves the capital, she'll be executed. However, within the capital for the next 3 days, she can do as she pleases. He hopes she'll make good use of the time. Ren is very grateful to him. If he follows orders, he thinks T won't have any objections. He'll also pretend to know nothing. The village's battleship is taking a temporary rest. They've crossed Ludo territory, but Walston's jurisdiction is an autonomous region where lords are allowed to self-govern if they pay taxes fully. Unlike Ludo, this place has very loose defenses. If they know the way, they can cross through. This map was drawn by Rekka. Unfortunately, it lacks data about Ludo. They have 3 more days before Rekka discovers Shubai's trick, so he wants to reach the wall before then. After completing food preparations, everyone continues their journey. They've reached Walston's jurisdiction. This place is too barren, which is also why Ludo doesn't care about it. Passing through here is a wise choice. Ludo doesn't care and Rekka doesn't want to start a war. Suddenly, a Brihite blocks the road. Shouai doesn't recognize it, so he guesses it's not regular army. That Brihite shouts for them to turn back. Elsha can't stop this ship. Before the Brihite is crushed by the ship, Arrow carries it aside. The Brihite's pilot is a rather weak-looking cute boy. The kid staggers and falls into Arrow's arms. This place is a handsome boy farm, with many sparkling cute boys in ambush. Arrow's group and that boy drive in. The blue-haired boy introduces everyone, saying Arrow's group isn't the enemy. Hearing about food, the kids happily run to Arrow. This is a farm where every boy is cute and pretty, working as slaves for the region's lord. After checking, the doctor confirms these children's brains are fake. They live as if dead. They're imprisoned on the farm and killed if they try to escape. Once a month, selected ones are taken to the laboratory. When they return devastated, the others care for them. Their lives revolve around waiting to be chosen. Handsome Boys is their nickname. Initially, they came from poor villages, thinking having food and shelter was good. But when brutally tortured, Goat and the blue-haired boy stole bind warpers from the lab, destroyed everything with Brihites, and ran away. Afterward, they defeated the guards to free everyone. So they thought Arrow's group came to chase them. Shouai sees that every country has its dark side. Ludo conducts experiments while Rekka uses slaves. Perhaps experimenting on these kids involves manipulating belief. Arrow invites the kids to join his wall-breaking group. Bra finds this absurd. He was born here. This place was once their village. The Walston Lord came and destroyed everything. Goat thinks they need to protect it. Running away would be surrendering. An alarm sounds. The enemy is attacking. The children scatter in panic. Leading the enemy forces is the Lord. He wants to prove to the children that opposing adults is a mistake. Brew wants to transform and fight. Arrow stops him, saying he'll handle this. Very quickly, they are defeated. The Lord recognizes Arrow. Rumors say he's a heretic who defeated Ikki's president and escaped from Rekka's demon general's clutches. Because of this, they retreat, and the kids are safe. That evening, a good meal is served. One child steps forward, inviting Bit to stay with them, promising to do anything Bit wants. Arrow notices Bruh sitting in a corner in despair and approaches to check on him. He guesses the boy is reckless because he couldn't save his friends. Bruh bursts into tears. His belief is to survive even if he's the only one left. He thinks a coward like himself should just die. Brehites are only for brave people like Goat. Arrow finds this mentally exhausting and leaves. Shouai was right, so Arrow follows him to leave. Lord Walston has collected many bind warpers. Just as he's gloating, Arrow opens the door and enters. On the battleship, not seeing Arrow's group return, Elsha is very worried. Arrow and the Lord return to the children. He has joined the Lord's side to get Ludo's map. Reaching the wall is more important than these kids. Seeing Arrow betray so easily, the village elder worries they'll face the same situation later. Shouai has negotiated to give the Lord an unrivaled territory in Ludo. In exchange, they'll be allowed to cut across his land. Bruh thinks Arrow turned against them because he despised the boy's weakness. He doesn't want to lose to these adults. After thinking, he realizes they could survive if Goat would help. Bruh opens the gate and charges forward, using smoke to obscure vision, then attacks Arrow relentlessly. The children also attack through the smoke, taking all the Lord's warpers. So everything is resolved. Arrow and Shouai turn against the Lord, no longer helping him. Genius Shouai memorized the map from a painting hanging in his room. Deceived, the Lord collapses. Finally, the children have regained their belief. Then Arrow's group bids farewell to the kids to return to the battleship. The village elder, having witnessed everything, decides to hand everything over to his granddaughter. From now on, Elsha officially becomes the leader of Edger village. Only Shouai and Arrow remain. Arrow remarks that Shouai is a special person. Despite abandoning his country and friends, he keeps moving forward. Shouai also acknowledges that Arrow has impressed him throughout this time. Leaving Ikki territory, Granger crosses through Ludo jurisdiction on its way to the wall. They discover that Lord Walston is experimenting on young boys. After meeting Arrow, the boys unite to claim bind warpers and defend their freedom. Rekka's border defense forces report to District 3 headquarters that the target battleship is heading toward the northern wall through the neutral zone. On the battleship, Bit is conducting a naming ceremony. First is Arrow's Brehite, named Muga, then Elsha's Shadow, and Atli's Ruju. Since Brehites are manifestations of belief, the more personalized they are, the more respected their controllers become, hence the need to name Brehites. Moreover, giving unique names helps nurture stronger beliefs. If Bit has enough belief to get one, Shouai would be honored to name it. Their current problem is that they've been spotted by Rekka's Northern Guard forces who are pursuing them at a distance of 10,000 gent. It's surprising that this screen can see so far. Northern General Totsu will attack them when given the opportunity. Fortunately, they'll be safe because fighting in the neutral zone is prohibited by the Caravan Road Treaty. If Rekka doesn't want trouble, they'll automatically stay away, which is why their destination is where the wall meets the neutral zone. But the Emperor wants to eliminate them, so he'll break the rules and attack. Arrow proposes breaking down the wall. The villagers have something to tell Elsha and Atli. Half of them want to leave the ship despite knowing there's no turning back. They think they'll be cursed if they break down the wall. Elsha still wants to try, but others aren't willing to take such a risk. They live thanks to the wall, so they can't stay on a ship that's going to destroy it. The choices of the older sisters will also affect the children. Elsha feels she can't stop the ship and must continue moving forward. Lord Walston comes to meet with Ludo. He reports about the recent battle. The princess appears extremely disappointed because he conducted disgusting experiments on young boys. He tries to explain, but the princess won't listen. She sheds tears, only wanting this world to be filled with love. The Lord wants the princess to wake up, thinking she's very stupid and cries too much. While bad-mouthing the princess, Ludo's commander Prax appears and asks to lightly punish him as a warning. For Prax, no one is allowed to make the princess cry. If the Lord says another word, she'll investigate that illegal experiment right away. The princess wants her subordinates to bring back the battleship without fighting. But this isn't easy because Rekka will block the way. Prax requests to take on this mission. Very quickly, Arrow's group reaches the wall. The villagers kneel down, begging the wall to forgive them. Arrow puts on the bind warper, transforms, and prepares to break the wall. But the wall is quite hard. Atli wants to help. She also tries to attack, but it's useless. It's unclear whether the attacks are ineffective or if the wall is absorbing them. Shouai suggests trying another method. With only 1 day left before Ren is imprisoned, she still hasn't found any additional information. She wishes she had treated her superior better in the past. It's all because Shouai was too arrogant. At that time, Shouai had said that sooner or later Kaio would replace him. Ren has a sudden realization. She's found something. The general eagerly wants to attack, but the chancellor insists on staying calm first. This chancellor doesn't allow anything before the capital is safe. Kaio comes to report that they've found a remote-controlled bomb planted by Shouai. What they thought was a long-range shot turned out to be just a trick. Ambassador Kaio has removed all those bombs. Now Rekka can attack. But there's still the Caravan Road Treaty. Hearing they can't fight, the general is very annoyed. On the other side, Shouai has figured out how the cannon works. He orders Bit to prepare to fire. Bit fires 2 shots directly at the wall. He thinks he's won when he blows it up, yet the wall remains undamaged. Shouai finds it interesting to travel with Arrow, not knowing what will happen. Something emerges from the wall and attacks them. Everyone hurriedly runs into the ship and holds tight. Those 2 things are smoke vents. Shouai realizes the wall is also a human product. Elsha can no longer control this ship. People fearfully believe the wall is cursing them. At this rate, they'll be blown back to Rekka. The general sees this as good and puts on his transformation armor. The Republic of Rekka doesn't forgive anyone who dares to disrespect the Supreme Wall. He wants Shouai to pay with his head. The general's belief is to kill all enemies. Nothing his axe cannot cut. Arrow confidently says he'll be the general's exception. As a general, he isn't afraid of an empty Brihite like Arrow. The axe swings down. Arrow doesn't flinch. The enemy is standing in the cannon's blind spot, so they can't shoot. Seeing this, Elsha plans to retreat to the neutral zone. Separation paint is sprayed on, and the ship stops working again. Shouai had predicted the enemy would use this. Enemies have invaded the battleship. Bit wants to fight to protect everyone. Outside, Atli and Arrow are still trying to fight. This opponent is formidable. Suddenly, a Brihite flies in and captures the general. It's Commander Prax's Brihite from Supreme Ludo, coming for the princess's interests. She stands on Elsha's head, saying she's here to negotiate. This is Rekka's territory, but Prax has circumvented the non-invasion rule by hovering without setting foot on the ground. Ludo has kept this secret to exploit a loophole in the treaty. Shouai is a rebel, but not an ordinary one. He's a genius rebel who has managed to blow away the separation paint. Prax will hold them off so the ship can start up. The ship has returned to the neutral zone, so they can no longer fight. Ludo considers that an act of war. The Chancellor orders the general to retreat. He doesn't want to provoke Ludo. The general is very upset. He'll definitely settle this score. Kaio sees this as a wise decision, avoiding the risk of war with Ludo at this time. But after the Emperor returns from suppressing the rebels, Rekka will attack Ludo. Kaio knows the Chancellor will accumulate wealth before then. In conclusion, Prax delivers a message from Ludo's princess, inviting Arrow and the crew to be guests. Ludo knows their group intends to break the wall, which is also what the princess wants to discuss. Unable to do anything else, Elsha accepts the invitation. Ludo is a country of intellect and science. Shouai thinks they might find a way to break the wall there. Princess Fine will cooperate with everyone. Arrow still stubbornly wants to continue. Elsha reminds him that the villagers are very tired. Rekka could attack at any time. She thinks they should negotiate with Ludo. Arrow tells everyone to go while he stays to find another way. Bit finds Arrow selfish. Elsha is frustrated, letting Arrow do as he pleases. Prax finds it regrettable because the princess was looking forward to meeting Arrow. She reluctantly compromises, only hosting the villagers and returning later to persuade Arrow. Arrow bids farewell to everyone and heads toward the wall. Ren has been assigned to serve under Kai. She doesn't look very happy, feeling like this was all part of Shouai's plan. He deliberately left clues for her about where he hid the bombs, knowing she would be blamed for his rebellion, and also prepared to ensure her freedom. Ren thinks Shouai believes that by setting her free, he can do as he pleases. She'll show Shouai he was wrong. Kai, as if given extra strength, breaks his chains. Arrow has reached the wall, but both his Brihite and the ship are heavily damaged. There, they are attacked by a general from Rekka's army. Coming to their aid is Commander Prax from the Ludo Empire. Although Arrow is determined to stay, the others have been invited as guests to Mystrog Castle. Bit is shooting, but his stupid gun doesn't recoil. After Arrow separates from the group, Elsha's ship is guided toward Ludo's capital. On the ship, Elsha is explaining to Prax how the ship works. True to its name, the Supreme Ludo Empire is ruled by 6 nobles. It's a place that reveres knowledge and peace, where everyone absolutely trusts Princess Fine, Ludo's supreme ruler. Therefore, she warmly welcomes everyone's heretical rebellious ideas. Prax here is a ranked Brihite commander in Ludo. Ludo equips defensive weapons but doesn't shoot enemies. Unlike Rekka, Ludo isn't aggressive, which is also Princess Fine's wish. On the way, Atli still worries about Arrow, while Elsha believes they must prioritize their village first. Since Dr. Sola also stayed behind, Elsha doesn't want to lose Atli too. They've been deceived, attacked, and overcome many hardships. She doesn't know if this time will be okay. Atli reassures her, certain that this time will be fine. Arrow continues punching the wall. The doctor stands by him, both worried and unable to understand the strange power within this person. The villagers receive a very warm welcome. When they step out of the vehicle, the princess's hologram appears. She introduces herself as Fine Forte of Ludo. She looks very cute. The local people are also honored to welcome the villagers. The armored division led by Prax also comes out to warmly greet them. In the western border area of the Republic of Rekka, the general is engaged in an intense fight. The western rebels have been completely wiped out. Now the emperor only has to attack Ludo. In Ludo, the villagers are treated to a lavish meal with dishes they don't even know the names of. Seeing the food, the children's eyes light up. Atli scolds them to maintain proper manners. Nevertheless, the villagers rush in, eating as if they've never eaten before. Delicious food and wine keep being brought in large quantities, making Elsha feel worried. A guard comes and tells her to follow that maid. Someone wants to meet her and Shouai. Outside, Arrow is exhausted. Inside, the girls are asked to undress and go to the bathroom. Perhaps they need to be presentable before meeting the leader. The two enjoy the large luxurious bathtub. The princess has been waiting in the bathtub beforehand. The two girls appear confused, but the princess believes they are equals because they are all leaders. Elsha can't think that way because she only leads a poor village. The princess wants Elsha to scrub her back. That's a diplomatic method, stripped bare with nothing hidden. Everything else is just love. Atli and Elsha are bewildered, but they eventually comply. The princess asks about the villagers. Atli tells her they care for each other every day. For the princess, that is love. Ludo is very large, with plenty of land for the villagers to live on. However, the princess doesn't scrub the two girls' backs as promised. She wraps a towel around herself and leaves, saying she's eager to meet Arrow. Prax takes on this task. At night, Arrow confides in the doctor about his burden. He cares deeply about the villagers and wants to help them, but it's not easy. He can't remember anything except wanting to return to the other side of the wall. Right now, his heart is very confused. The doctor also has his own reasons for staying here and not wanting to go to Ludo. Arrow is determined to break through the wall. When he returns home, he'll apologize to the villagers. Suddenly Prax flies in, grabbing Arrow to kidnap him to Ludo. Her belief is to protect Princess Fine's heart. Arrow transforms. He'll punch anyone who stands in his way. He replicates himself, surrounding Prax, threatening her to fly high and take him beyond the wall. Inside, the villagers are still enjoying the food. Shouai approaches Bit, wanting to ask for his help with something. Prax takes Arrow flying high, but they are quickly blocked. In the sky are numerous defensive flying devices. She has tried this before, not expecting the sky to be so dangerous. If they fly any higher, they'll be attacked. She once thought these weapons were ice stars reflecting on the wall, but they're not. They can't go any further because the wall is sealed by someone's will. Arrow cannot destroy the wall and cross to the other side. Prax wants Arrow to obediently follow her back to Ludo, but he stubbornly refuses. Prax has to use force. Seeing some strange symbol, Arrow grabs onto it like a drowning man clutching at straws. Shouai is discussing with the ministers. Ludo can grant him asylum here, on the condition of exchanging Rekka's secret. In return, Shouai also wants to know Ludo's process for improving bind warpers. Rekka has confronted Prax many times, but as far as he knows, her Brihite doesn't have the ability to fly. Ludo must have intervened to add the flying capability, but only Prax can use it. So Shouai hopes to help apply this on a mass scale. The door opens. A soldier reports that Rikuho has appeared. The people are very happy, thinking they'll be useful to the princess. Ero is knocked unconscious and taken away, leaving the doctor alone and helpless. Hearing they can live in Ludo, the villagers are very happy. The village elder thinks they won't need the ship anymore. He wants to rebuild the village. Prax brings Ero back, just as Shouai predicted. He knew Prax wouldn't leave Ero alone, so he sent Bit to watch and help. At the negotiating table, he says he can exchange Granger's diagram. He'll go back to the ship to get it. 2 ministers want to escort him. When Shouai goes outside with the 2 escorts, Bit charges out to attack them. Ero is currently tied up in a strange room. Prax appears, wearing a mask and speaking in a very tense tone. She points a gun, demanding the doctor work quickly. He prepares the experiment, but first needs a choir to create the atmosphere. Then he stabs Ero, confirming he has no belief. Ero wakes up from the pain, demanding Prax remove her mask. But the person in front of him slaps his face, treating him as just a lowly experimental subject. They will clarify his power to control Brihites without belief, finding a way for anyone to control Brihites. Outside, Shouai has heard everything. He notices a switch on the bed where Ero is lying. He wants Bit to shoot it all or nothing. Taking advantage of the doctor's singing, Bit aims at the switch and hits it. Ero is released. He electrocutes the hateful doctor. Shouai uses smoke to help Ero escape. The masked person chases after them. When the mask is broken, it's shocking to discover the person is the princess herself, not Prax. Having her face seen, she's very angry. Based on this reaction, Princess Fine seems to have 2 personalities. The second personality is determined to kill anyone who sees her. Invited to Ludo, the Granger crew receives a very warm welcome. Meanwhile, Ero becomes a living experimental subject. The mysterious knight who ordered the doctor turns out to be Princess Fine with an altered identity. Shouai is forced to throw smoke bombs to help all 3 continue running. He suspects the princess carries multiple personalities, something he still cannot explain. The princess frantically slashes at everything, destroying whatever her blade reaches. Ero immediately counterattacks. Bit cautiously stops Ero, preventing him from retaliating. If the princess is injured, even with just a small scratch, the villagers will be mercilessly expelled from Ludo. On this side, the princess still frantically wants to kill them all in one swift move. She claims this is her love. The 3 have no choice but to flee. During the chaos, Shouai has no time to devise a plan. The princess quickly holds her sword against his neck. Bit fearfully cries, almost wetting himself. Prax appears, personally stopping the princess. She says she will handle the princess's task herself, allowing her to safely return to the palace, then kisses her shoe. Ero remarks that she's truly a devil for wanting to experiment on people, and then chop them up. The princess happily throws away her sword and runs off. It seems this country has sunk deep into a dark abyss. What everyone saw before was just the surface. To protect the princess's secret, Prax will kill everyone who witnessed this incident. Ero thinks running is the best option. He transforms, pulling Shouai and Bit along to escape the encirclement. Prax immediately contacts command, reporting the situation and requesting deployment of the counterattack plan. Meanwhile, the princess has used a secret passage. In the library, she returns to her original form, sad about her condition. Atli is still anxiously wanting to help Ero. She has changed clothes and picked up a bind warper. She looks into the distance with worried eyes, but Elsha stops her, begging her not to go. Atli wants to help Ero and Dr. Sola, concerned that he cannot break the wall alone. Although somewhat emotionally stabilized, Elsha is still not truly ready. Half her mind is still torn by the sudden loss of her homeland. They once had a peaceful place, now reduced to ashes. Ero suddenly flew in, the village was attacked, and before she could recover, she was wandering on a large ship, then pushed to become the new village leader. That burden was never light. If Atli leaves, Elsha will have to face everything alone with no one to confide in. She knows she's being selfish, but asks Atli to allow her this selfishness just for herself. Atli hugs her, apologizing for not realizing how difficult things have been. Unexpectedly, both discover Ero and Prax fighting fiercely, getting closer. Ero is carrying Shouai and Bit, so he cannot split himself to fight at full strength, while Prax has the great advantage of flight. He extends his mechanical arms trying to grab his opponent, but suddenly loses momentum. Prax stops holding back. She removes her bind warper, ready to confront him directly since she doesn't use Brehite combat with ordinary people. At that moment, Dr. Sola rushes in, stopping her. Everyone is stunned when they hear him shout that Prax is his sister. He was once part of the Empire, and he is the reason why the princess now has multiple personalities. Prax will never forgive him for abandoning the princess. Prax is determined to kill him. Sola asks Prax if she's sure, because killing him means the princess will never recover. Indeed, the princess became like this because of him, but he left the country to find a cure for her, and now he needs Shouai's brain to complete that research. There are many strange things on the ship. He thinks there might be another remedy to heal the princess. Arrow can destroy Brehites without killing their controllers, which means they can wipe out beliefs without harming people. Prax still holds firmly to her beliefs, refusing to let go. She only wants to kill everyone who knows the princess's secret, and can only helplessly watch Arrow's group escape. The doctor leads them into the underground sewers, where he decides to tell them everything. 5 years ago, the king died, leaving 40 heirs. Among them, the current princess was chosen. She liked to practice flying, and Prax often trained with her using gliders. Once, when both were flying high, he was below and accidentally shot at them, thinking they were being attacked by birds. The shot caused both to fall. He knew it was his fault. From that day, the princess began developing multiple personalities, and only when near these two people could she maintain some control. Later, his sister Prax also began acting strangely, many times wanting to harm him. He had to leave the Empire, seeking ways to save the princess and atone for his mistake. Meanwhile, the king of Rekka has returned. He quickly realized the plot of his close Chancellor T, but kept him by his side, finding him still useful. Afterward, he met with Kai, noticing that he had trained and disciplined himself extensively, so he decided to release him. Right after, the king organized the execution of the rebel family leader he had just suppressed. Before dying, that leader called the king weak. In response, the king only gave him a bind warper, saying he would fight personally. The battle ended in an instant. Although the opponent wore armor while he used only a conventional weapon, the king defeated him with a single blow. Taking advantage of the soldiers' excitement, he immediately ordered preparations to invade the Ludo Empire. In Atli's village, all villagers have been captured because Arrow's group accidentally learned the princess's secret. Prax vows to stay, using everything she has to protect her. At that moment, the Republic's king sends a cold message. He declares that the invasion will begin tomorrow, giving them exactly 1 day to surrender. Hearing this news, the princess suddenly changes her personality. She stands up, her eyes glowing brightly, and declares she will challenge him. The princess uses her other face to contact the doctor directly, saying it's time for her to slaughter Rekka. This is real war. The doctor says the Brehite production process isn't complete, but the princess angrily forbids him from commenting, adding that she'll kill everyone without exception. She orders the use of all weapons Ludo has. The battle will begin at noon the day after tomorrow. Hearing the deadline is so close, the doctor still needs some music to work. Prax wants the princess to go to her room and rest, but the princess is angry that someone dares to order her around. Prax kneels down, saying she is only serving her. The princess refuses, standing up, finding Prax annoying. Afterward, she returns to her normal form. Prax begs her to come to her senses, but she doesn't think she can hold on any longer. After these words, the other personality takes over again. She believes that in the upcoming confrontation with Rekka, they cannot win if that weak princess is in command. Now is the time for her to rule Lingaland. She won't allow anyone to contradict her. The ministers don't understand what's happening to the princess. Clearly, they aren't prepared for war. An announcement is made to all Ludo citizens that they will engage in battle with Rekka in 2 days. They believe science will not be defeated. The people cannot believe the princess wants war. They hear rumors that the princess has changed, but they are united in wanting to defeat Rekka. At a small hut by the river, Dr. Sola has brought food for the dependent children at home. Princess Fine's second personality has been made public. War will happen, which is bad news on many fronts. Shouai has an opinion. The first problem is that Dr. Sola has been followed. It turns out Ludo's ministers have followed Prax's orders to come here. However, a mysterious girl appears from nowhere, welcoming Sola home. She has also chased away that minister. A mysterious person is waiting for them. It's someone whom no one in Ludo dares to challenge. Everyone is led to the palace, where the surrounding architecture is all depraved. In the center, a fat man sits eating. He is the Supreme Selector. Sola had heard rumors for a long time, but didn't think he was real. This is Supreme Selector Rudolph, one of the 6 supreme authorities, the person who selects the throne. He remarks that Sola has brought an interesting group of people, allowing him to enjoy new pleasure for a while. The supreme brain of Rekka, the Ludo doctor, and the boy from beyond the wall. Arrow steps forward. He knows nothing about himself, but he knows everyone is trying their best. However, he cannot sense Rudolph's feelings, and he doesn't like that. Rudolph is displeased, releasing power that knocks Arrow backward. He has a bind warper right in his body. Even he doesn't know how powerful he is, so he has immersed himself in joy and pleasure, making himself bored and lazy. If he were serious, this world would have ended already. Supreme Secretary Peef has arrived. He enters, saying Prax has been paying attention to Sola. He hasn't come to fight, but to report that Fine's other personality has declared war. Rudolph knows everything because Fine's throne was chosen by him, which is why other heirs all come to entertain him. Bit looks around. Other princes and princesses are here. Rudolph thinks this is better than them being killed to prevent rebellion. He pitied them and turned them into slaves. When Fine had an accident, he gave her his blood, thinking it would help her recover faster, making her more suitable for the throne. Prax is very shocked. She only knew the surgery was very difficult, not that they used Rudolph's blood. Even knowing this, Sola can't do anything. The minister reports that the princess has decided to execute the villagers. The princess wants Granger, so she wants to kill Elsha and take her bind warper. Elsha cannot understand this distorted love. With Fine gone mad, rather than letting a poor country somewhere far away own the battleship, she will control it herself to crush Rekka. The princess makes another proposal, wanting Elsha to promise to obey her, then cut off her 2 legs and keep her at the ship's bow. If Elsha refuses, all villagers will die. Rudolph releases Arrow's group. He has also prepared a replacement plan for the princess if she dies. Just outside the cave, their group is attacked by Brihites. On the other side, Elsha can't stand being pitied by one person after another anymore. She will fight, on the condition that if she wins, the princess must release all the villagers. The princess is annoyed. She doesn't accept anyone ordering her around. Prax steps forward, suggesting agreeing with Elsha, letting her agree and be full of hope, then die in regret. What other ending could there be for a fool who dares to challenge the princess? The princess is confident Prax will win anyway, so she agrees. Elsha agrees to the battle. Better to struggle than die here. Both transform. Elsha is no match for Prax at all. Outside, Arrow is frantic because he wants to save his friends. His Brihite has grown wings, escaped the encirclement, and flown into the sky. Before Prax delivers the final blow, Arrow flies in to stop her. Prax cannot believe Arrow has taught himself to fly. Arrow declares he will finish Prax. However, Elsha asks him to step back. She wants to face Prax herself because the princess promised to free the villagers if she defeats Prax. Prax says she doesn't know her limits. The princess is gradually losing her composure. Arrow wishes Elsha good luck. He wants her to use him. As said before, only she can save herself, but he thinks he can help. Arrow transforms into a sword. The princess frantically orders the killing of all the children and the entire village. Prax asks the princess to stop. This is a duel between knights. She doesn't want to lose her honor. Then the two rush into combat. Elsha has cut Prax in half. Because she doesn't want Prax to die, the princess returns to her original personality. Fortunately, Prax is still intact. She remarks that Arrow's power is truly miraculous. The princess runs over, feeling incredibly lucky. But the other personality quickly takes over, declaring she will kill Prax. She no longer cares about her promise to Elsha. She will use the bind warper herself to act. Shouai shouts for her to stop, telling the story of how she was given the Supreme Selector's blood, causing her personality split. Prax is shocked. Everyone tries to reason with the princess, but she refuses, transforming. In her inner self, the real Princess Fine has stopped her. She has always been afraid of everything, but now she knows she can accept the second personality and bear the burden of lives lost because of her. She wants a world full of love, so she decides to take control from now on. The second personality has been blown away. The princess takes back her ring and apologizes to everyone. The villagers are also safe. On the other side, Rudolph is laughing very evilly. Despite her efforts, it seems the princess cannot avoid the war. She advises the villagers to leave to avoid being dragged into this battle. Princess Fine fights to protect the country from the Republic of Rekka. She declares she will take responsibility. Elsha offers to help her. They are also being hunted by Rekka, so the two have formed an alliance. A young man with lost memories journeys to return to the other side of the wall aboard the Granger ship with the Edger villagers. After countless challenges, Ludo Empire, one of the two superpowers in Lingaland, welcomed the Edger village. However, Ludo's princess possesses a hidden second personality that has pushed for war with the remaining kingdom, the Republic of Rekka. Arrow and his friends met Ludo's supreme selector named Rudolph, learning that Fine's other personality originated from his blood transfusion. Prax and Sola knew the truth, suppressing their emotions. Fine confronted her other personality, sealed that bloodthirsty monster, and formed an alliance with Elsha and the Edger villagers. The Republic of Rekka faces off against the Ludo Empire. The largest battle in Lingaland's history is about to erupt. The Emperor stands high commanding his army. The Republic of Rekka will carry the will of the wall and unify Lingaland. Today, he must crush Ludo. Ren Xin becomes Kai's right hand, determined to defeat Shouai together. After a loud rallying cry to motivate his troops, the Emperor jumps onto his warhorse and rides off. Kai thinks he should quickly follow. The Emperor seems very excited whenever he has an opponent. In Ludo, the princess calls Rekka's king a dirty old man. During this time, Princess Fine is very worried, unsure if she can lead the country to victory like her aggressive personality could. Since that other personality ignited this unwanted war, she thinks it's all her fault for not being able to control her other half. She will hide no more. They have always kept her split personality a secret. Prax has covered for her cruel actions, but she wants to clarify everything. At least that's what she can do for dragging everyone into this war. The ministers think this isn't a good idea. The country is united because of the princess's innocence. Telling the truth to those who fear war will only cause chaos. The only way for her to take responsibility for the country is to win this war. Actually, everything the ministers persuaded her with was part of Rudolph's subordinates' plot. Meanwhile, Shouai and the doctor are working hard on research. Brihites are formed from nanobursts when reacting with strong beliefs. The metal solution underground turns out to be belief particles. Shouai seems very excited about this. He suggests the doctor try making artificial bind warpers. Thanks to Shubai's mind, the doctor has solved all the puzzles. The princess once again calls Elsha and Atli to the bathtub, where they can talk without being overheard. She confides that she may not be the right person for this job. The other personality is stronger and more suited to leadership. She fears innocent people will fall if she fails. With some encouragement, the princess gradually becomes happier. Arrow decides he will also join the battle instead of obsessing over breaking the wall and abandoning his friends. Rekka's army is 3 times larger than Ludo's. According to Shubai's calculations, the Emperor wants to completely dominate Ludo, so he will attack Ludo's strongest point to flex his power, while Elsha's group will defend the weakest point. The battleship has launched. The people are very worried but believe in their country's army. As promised, the Edger villagers will have a place to stay. However, the village elder has turned his back, tired of being played by the upper class, no longer wanting Dr. Sola involved with them. Prax seeks him out, wanting him to regain his old strength. Since accidentally shooting his sister, he has been disgusted with himself. Prax angrily throws down the bind warper, wanting him to prove himself. The battle is about to take place. Until now, Lingaland has maintained balance until Arrow appeared. With the current situation, Shouai sees going to the other side of the wall as impossible, so he wants Arrow to become Lingaland's ruler. This battle will destroy both Ludo and Rekka. Then Arrow will unify the land and take control of the wall. With Rekka's will and Ludo's technology, the wall will collapse. This time, Arrow's biggest enemy is Kai. As predicted, Rekka, under the command of 2 generals, has attacked Ludo's strongest area. Prax is ready to meet the challenge. On this side, Shouai and Arrow have encountered Kai and Ren Xin's group. Ren rushes forward to block Arrow, creating an opportunity for Kai to close in. Shouai orders Elsha to hold the battleship steady, while he continuously fires at the small troops advancing. Arrow uses his splitting technique to distract Ren, then flies up into the sky, pulling Kai along. Up high, he drops him for Shouai to attack, creating a loop that prevents Kai from reacting. Kai is furious and considers Shouai a coward, but Arrow doesn't respond. When he's about to end the battle, Ren appears, rushing in to block the blow and attaching herself to Arrow to activate a suicide bomb. In the decisive moment, Arrow is forced to remove his bind warper to prevent the explosion, suffering injuries but still surviving. He counterattacks and defeats Ren. Afterward, Arrow transforms into a sword handed to Atli, allowing her to spin and clear out the remaining enemy forces. Kai falls under the barrage of light artillery from Shouai. On another front, the king uses dirty tricks, causing Prax to be thrown into the palace. When hearing that Kai has been defeated, he orders a retreat. After the battle, Shouai approaches Arrow. He asks why he didn't finish off Kai. Arrow only says that he wants him to live so that in the future, when the world is unified, they can meet again as friends rather than enemies. In the medical camp, Kai wakes up, realizing he's still alive. Ren is also alive, but subordinates advise him to take care of himself first. Realizing he lost to Arrow, Kai angrily vows to avenge this humiliation. The battle between the Ludo Empire and the Republic of Rekka has begun. Facing the coordinated attack of Shouai and Arrow, Kai was completely defeated. But Emperor Zetsu's power is limitless. Even Prax couldn't match it. No one knows where this battle will lead. Seeing Prax's Brihite blown back to the palace, the people are very confused and worried. Bit is now standing before a troop, encouraging their heroic spirit. That's Ludo's reinforcements. Arrow has been taken back to the battleship to bandage his arm wound. Shouai, with his usual calm face, explains to him a series of complex theories about what he calls belief particles, the core energy source that creates Brihites. A person's spirit forms the core. In a Brihite battle, the reason losers vanish is because their spirits are destroyed along with the Brihite, and their bodies are broken down into belief particles. It seems the bind warper plays a role in this. He explains that Arrow's wound is now not just a trauma, but directly affects his ability to control the bind warper's power. If he can't control himself while fighting, his blow might not only break the opponent's bind warper, but also shatter their belief, taking their lives. Arrow listens silently. Shouai reminds him to be wise when fighting. Tomorrow they will face Rekka's army. Rekka is stronger than Ludo thought. Ludo's only victory is Elsha's battleship. When the group meets to discuss strategy, Shouai draws on the map a treacherous mountain pass area where steep terrain and deep basins could become a giant trap. He suggests luring the Republic of Rekka's army there, using rocks from the mountainside to crush the enemy along with their king. The plan is somewhat cruel, but is the only way to end the war in the shortest time. A crisis occurs. People are surrounding and protesting in front of the palace gates. They think they cannot defeat Rekka. They want an answer about whether Ludo can win this war or not. The princess appears, reassuring them that Ludo will not lose. This country was formed from love, dreams, and hope, and the Edger villagers are also helping them. She wants the people to trust her. And so the people see in her the light of kindness and once again believe in her. Prax, the once unyielding team leader, feels heavy-hearted. She believes she and her teammates have been humiliated after their previous defeat. Meanwhile, on the other side of the battle line, Ren is still diligently training with Go, the Emperor's loyal general. She earnestly asks to increase the difficulty to further hone her skills and belief in herself. When the king enters, his eyes are cold as steel. He recognizes in Ren a desire to become stronger, and so, instead of rewarding or training her, he ties her up and throws her into a waterfall to test her. Ren doesn't understand why. She thinks she will die here, but when Shouai's image appears in her mind, her will for revenge doesn't allow her to sink. She surfaces, gritting her teeth, using her mouth to grip tree roots along the shore, her body full of wounds but her eyes burning like fire. As for Kai, after his defeat and hearing unfavorable talk about himself, he can't bear it. On the battleship, Atli tells Elsha about Arrow opposing killing enemies. She really understands Arrow's feelings. Elsha always prioritizes protecting the villagers, so she will fight back against enemies at any cost. Bit feels useless among those fighting with all their might. He asks Shouai for a bind warper to help, but he just smiles and tells him to first learn to control the battleship's artillery system, then talk about fighting. He nods, determined to prove his worth. Later, Arrow approaches Shouai, asking why he has to try so hard, why he has to put all his heart into winning. Shouai says nothing, just maintaining his usual mysterious gentle smile. The next morning, the Granger battleship has moved close to the area behind the Republic's forces. They plan to create a pincer attack to tightly encircle the enemy. But the plan doesn't go as smoothly as Shouai calculated. Rekka's forces, under the command of experienced generals, didn't come. Instead, Kai appears alone, transforming in light. Although still injured, his spirit is fierce as if wanting to swallow the sky whole. He scolds Shoubai's tactics as cheap and not worthy of standing in his way. Atli immediately rushes down to attack first, clearing the way for Arrow to shoot up high to provide air support. Meanwhile, Kai is hit by cannon fire, his body crashing to the ground, leaving a long trail of smoke. Bit celebrates victory. He had used his rest time to practice. Ludo soldiers rush to surround Kai. Outside, Rekka's forces are still following the battleship according to plan. Prax, while still maintaining her determination, begins to fear the Emperor will personally enter the battle. On Rekka's side, the General and Emperor are still encouraging their troops. They will confront Ludo directly if followed. Ren, after surviving the waterfall, has returned. She is now full of spirit, her eyes calm but deep, and thus is given another bind warper by the king. She returns to the battlefield and finds Kai, who is dying among Ludo's soldiers. When it seems to be the end for the proud general, Ren approaches, saying she now has a new power, and that he should use her wings to continue fighting. Kai still tries to maintain his pride, not wanting to accept help, until Ren punches him hard. That blow not only stuns him, but also breaks the stubborn self-esteem that has imprisoned him for so long. He realizes, like Shouai, that fighting is not to prove oneself stronger than others, but to protect what one believes in. Kai and Ren decide to merge, donning fiery wings. Outside, Prax is being beaten badly by Rekka's general. The Granger battleship approaches to support, and Arrow intends to go out to fight. But Kai appears, blocking him in mid-air. In his anger, he declares that now he is no less than Arrow. The two collide like thunder and lightning, each blow making the sky shake. Arrow is knocked down, while Kai continues to rush at Elsha, knocking her off the ship. Without Elsha, the battleship is paralyzed, unable to support teammates. Kai faces Shouai. Now he considers Shouai an enemy. He is determined to destroy back Arrow and punish Shouai. Then Kai rushes up toward Arrow. Arrow thought he could fight Kai with all his might, but the wound on his arm has caused him to suffer a numbing electric shock. Kai had lost himself, but Ren Sin helped him recover. When their Brihites merged, Kai received a mysterious flying ability. After being reborn, Kai's power was enough to temporarily set Shouai aside. Kai was determined to use all his strength to defeat back Arrow. To prove their friendship, Kai would shatter Shubai's dream of reaching the sky. Seeing Kai return to himself, Shouai smiled again. Arrow also noticed Kai was very different and much stronger than before. He could now fight with full force. However, his arm suffered a severe circuit malfunction at the most crucial moment. Ren realized the wound there was probably caused by herself, but despite feeling slightly guilty, Kai understood that there was no room for mercy between them now. Thanks to Arrow, Ren's belief had become wings for Kai. To thank him, she would try her best to defeat him. Both sides were determined to fight to the end, and Arrow understood he couldn't avoid this confrontation. He gathered all his strength, deciding to fight to the end against the two opponents before him. Below, Elsha and Atli were fighting against two veteran Rekka generals, while Arrow could only use his bare hands to face Kai's gleaming blade. He backed away, gathered momentum, then charged with a powerful slash. But at that moment, the Imperial commander Prax appeared, standing in front of the blade, taking the blow for Arrow. Atli and Elsha were also timely supported by Commander Prax's loyal subordinates. Both sides fought while apologizing for previously misunderstanding and imprisoning them without clear reason. Since Ludo and Granger were now allies, they would cooperate. Commander Prax observed that Arrow seemed to be struggling with his injured arm, so she immediately told him to retreat to the air. Arrow immediately understood her intention and activated his bind warper to fly up. Kai and Ren were unaware that another force was waiting in the sky, and when they approached, Prax and Arrow quickly circled back, forcing Kai and Ren into Arrow's layer's limited zone. When in the sky, Prax's group clearly had the advantage. The commander saw the perfect opportunity and was about to deliver the finishing blow. But Arrow, fearing that strike could take both their lives, intentionally held back. Because of this hesitation, Kai and Ren managed to escape. Their attack with Ren was nothing compared to the Emperor's paper slip from the day before. Shouai told Arrow to transform into a sword for Prax to use. It would be effective despite Arrow's injury, and Arrow didn't hesitate, following his instruction. The battle between the four merged beings began. Ludo's forces were falling behind schedule and couldn't contact the supporting reconnaissance unit. Information about the battleship was also limited due to the battle and radio interference. Meanwhile, Princess Fine on the Granger discovered that the entire battle was being broadcast live for all Ludo citizens to watch, and the person who activated the broadcast signal was none other than Supreme Selector Rudolph. Even Rekka's Emperor was excited about this battle. He felt it was unfair that only the nobility could watch the battle, so he broadcast it for all citizens to enjoy together. The princess felt indignant but couldn't challenge him. Unexpectedly, Kai and Ren separated, forcing Arrow to return to Brihite form to chase Ren. Kai threw a hook, wrapped it around Commander Prax's leg, and sent an electric current that paralyzed her. Arrow immediately dove down to save her, pulling Kai away, leaving the two female warriors to face each other. At Ludo's palace, news arrived that Bit was working hard to control the ship. Bit knew that Elsha no longer had enough strength to control the Granger, so he took the helm himself. Seeing the tense situation, Princess Fine picked up a bind warper. She didn't want to sit and watch anymore, believing she could control the darkness sleeping deep within her. Meanwhile, Arrow took Kai up into the vast sky, hoping he would come to his senses. He said Shouai didn't betray for personal gain, but only wanted to open his eyes to see the vast world beyond the wall, wanted to know who created them, and why they imprisoned humanity inside. Before the battle, Shouai and Arrow had a conversation. Now, Arrow used mind communication techniques, advising Kai to move toward the future instead of killing each other here. But Ren rushed in, merging with Kai again. Both, in a rage, attacked continuously, knocking Arrow out of the cloud layer, falling to the ground. They believed that someone like Arrow, who only yearned to go beyond the wall, could never understand the suffering of people struggling inside. Kai raised his hand to deliver the final blow, but Fine suddenly appeared, standing in front of him. All attacks were ineffective against her. Fine raised her hand, releasing pure energy that spread across the battlefield, restoring power to all allied forces, while helping Arrow regain his form and fighting strength. Cheers erupted throughout Lingaland, but that joy didn't last long, as Rekka's Emperor decided it was time for him to enter the battle. He pulled out 10 bind warpers, put them on his arm, then charged straight into the center of the battle line. At this point, the Allied forces were pushing the enemy into a mountain pass, seemingly assured of victory, but the Emperor just waved his hand, immediately causing both sides of the mountain to explode, blowing away all obstacles. The ambush bombing plan was completely destroyed, and now they were forced to face this powerful monster directly. Commander Prax led the charge, but in the blink of an eye, the Emperor had grabbed her tightly, locking all movement. Arrow rushed in to save her, but both were thrown aside, and with another hand movement, he blew away all the forces behind them. Amid the chaos, only Princess Fine remained standing. She quickly used her recovery power to save Arrow and Prax, but the Emperor had approached, his words seeming to awaken the dark nature within her. Fine was gradually cornered, struggling in desperation, and eventually lost control. The dark entity within her rose, her eyes blazing with fierce red light. She spoke in a low voice, declaring that the old man before her would pay dearly for daring to anger someone like her. And from that moment, the entire battlefield seemed to hold its breath. No one could have expected the princess's insane personality to awaken at this moment. The situation on the battlefield is now extremely chaotic. Granger has almost become immobile, and Princess Fine is gradually losing control. Bit, standing in the cockpit, realizes the ship no longer responds, while Shouai remains silent, his eyes half closed, clearly showing absolute concentration to find an escape from this dangerous situation. Bit thinks he doesn't look good at all. The princess, under the influence of her dark ego, begins to attack frantically. The Rekka Emperor, with his giant form and numerous bind warpers on his arms, can only erect thick defensive shields. However, each bind warper begins to shatter, as he uses quantity to compensate for weakened belief. Fine spins, her legs transforming into glowing drills, piercing through the defensive shield. In her fury, she forces the Emperor to kneel, compelling him to do the humiliating act of licking her shoe as once declared. Through the live broadcast, people are very confused. They no longer know if this is truly the princess or not. On the battlefield, the Emperor just laughs, showing no fear. He reaches out, absorbing her sword, then a part of Prax's body when she rushes to help. Prax struggles, intending to rescue the princess, but Kai immediately blocks her, forcing her to confront him. Behind them, other warriors are drawn into their own battles, no one able to approach to support the princess. Fine continues charging, aiming straight at where soldiers from both sides are locked in struggle. She doesn't distinguish between friend and foe. Her storm-like blows cause both allies and enemies to fall. Their energy is absorbed by her, making Fine's body increasingly bright, but her face distorts in madness. People watching the battle through the broadcast begin to tremble with fear. They no longer recognize the benevolent princess who once protected them. The princess's secret has been exposed in the worst possible way. No one dares to intervene, as this is Supreme Selector Rudolph's decision. Arrow, seeing that Prax cannot focus because she's too worried about Fine, tells her to hold Kai back so he can go save the princess. He splits his spiritual energy, creating another entity to block the Emperor, while his main body rushes to stop Fine in the middle of the battlefield. A fatal blow between two Brehites causes the broadcast to suddenly cut off, making people even more confused. A fat man in the crowd incites everyone, saying this demonic image is the princess's true nature. When the image returns, Fine has been restrained by Arrow, the evil energy within her gradually dissipating, her eyes slowly returning to their previous gentleness. Shouai still maintains his calm demeanor. He begins to speak, meaning the plan is complete. Shouai orders all troops to pretend to retreat, as he has a new strategy. He needs Arrow and Elsha to play key roles. They immediately return to Granger, while Shouai rotates the ship 180 degrees, ordering the artillery system to prepare. Arrow merges his energy into the bind warper, connecting directly with the main cannon. The enemy, just as Shouai predicted, reorganizes their formation to pursue. When everything is in position, a single cannon shot, combined with Arrow's power, is fired. The light tears through the sky, spreading like an energy storm, sweeping away all Rekka soldiers. Most enemy bind warpers are destroyed, with only Kai, Ren, and the Emperor still standing. Arrow intentionally holds back, leaving them a way to survive. However, the Emperor, instead of retreating, orders the remaining troops to continue fighting with conventional weapons. Rekka soldiers, carrying absolute loyalty, still eagerly charge forward, forcing Prax and her army to counterattack. Arrow calls on Kai to stop, saying this is just meaningless sacrifice, but Shouai tells him not to waste words. He believes these people live by faith, not reason, so even with explanation, they will still rush to their deaths, and Shouai feels that stopping this army is his duty. Bit takes this task upon himself, as he is the strategic admiral. Amid the chaos, Princess Fine steps forward, radiating healing light. She uses all her power to heal soldiers from both sides, not wanting more bloodshed. Her healing energy spreads, covering the entire battlefield, causing the wounded to stand up and realize the futility of the war. Although healed, the Emperor shows no gratitude and still wants his soldiers to continue attacking. But the princess has used the power of love to influence everyone. The Emperor, now also touched by that energy, gradually loses his Brehite armor and returns to human form. Despite being healed, he still shows no gratitude and wants his soldiers to continue attacking. But the princess has used the power of love to influence everyone. He looks around with tired eyes, then declares the end of the war. The two generals still want to continue fighting, but Kai stops them, saying this is the Emperor's will, and no one is allowed to disobey. After the weapons fall silent, both sides begin negotiations, deciding to withdraw troops, ending the meaningless war. The princess's love has influenced everything. Granger is towed back to base. The technical team urgently repairs it, as the recent shot consumed all remaining energy. Arrow, Shouai, and their teammates inspect the battleship together, while Princess Fine and Prax return to Ludo. Fine decides to be open with the people about her second personality, hoping they will understand and forgive. But as soon as she steps down from the war chariot, the crowd rushes forward, throwing stones and screaming. In their eyes, the one who once saved the country is now just a monster in human form, causing Fine immense inner pain. Rekka's Brehites had been swept away by Granger's super cannon. By giving love to the fierce Rekka army, Fine had moved the Emperor's heart to end the battle. But in the capital, the people of Ludo were filled with anger. Arrow's group was celebrating their victory after the long battle. The atmosphere on the Granger was lighter than ever, wounds and losses temporarily forgotten. The girls discussed returning to the wall to complete their unfinished mission. But Shouai knew they didn't yet have the ability to do anything with it. So he quietly hoped Arrow would seriously consider his suggestion to become a leader, a king who could unify this world. With Ludo's technology and Rekka's will, breaking the wall would be much easier. However, Arrow still couldn't say anything. He understood that a throne couldn't be seized by force. Meanwhile, the situation in Princess Fine's kingdom had become chaotic, with angry crowds demanding justice and punishment. believing she was a witch disguised as a gentle princess, forcing Prax to hurriedly escort the princess away from the square. Fine didn't understand why the people had bind warpers that were supposed to be kept only in the palace. Atli sat quietly on the ship's deck, feeling useless for not helping in the recent battle. She had only gotten in everyone's way. But Elsha came to her side, saying she was always the first to act when everyone else hesitated, that such courage was more important than strength, and everyone admired her bravery. Elsha recounted what Atli had accomplished. Atli remained silent, but her weak smile showed those words somewhat eased her heart. Below the palace, people were still frantically protesting. Fine blamed Prax for pulling her away without giving her a chance to explain to the people. When the doctor and 2 courtiers rushed in, reporting that people had broken into the laboratory and stolen bind warpers. The main forces were still on the battlefield. Ludo now only had palace guards. If the people rebelled, they wouldn't be able to hold out. Fine was horrified, knowing this could lead to disaster, but she remained firm that no one should harm the citizens. Prax realized this entire incident must have been orchestrated by the Supreme Selector. Fine wanted to appear and explain, but suddenly fainted and was taken to her room, where Prax discovered her unhealed wound was bleeding. Prax felt heartbroken, wondering why in this world only her beloved princess was cursed by fate. The ministerial secretary took custody of the bind warper, believing they couldn't allow Princess Fine's second personality to appear again. On the other side, Shouai was still focused on repairing the Granger. He needed at least a day to restore all its energy. He understood peace wouldn't last forever. Granger had destroyed most of Rekka's forces. Those hungry for power would want to possess it. But before they could rest, a stranger controlling a giant machine appeared and attacked. Arrow immediately rushed out to confront them, splitting himself to restrain the enemy. Though the opponent's form remained hidden in thick smoke, only their fiery red eyes visible. Atli wanted to help, but Shouai thought she would only get in the way. Just as Arrow was about to deliver the final blow, the person disappeared, leaving behind a thick, uneasy atmosphere. Excessive magnetism rendered the radar useless. At the same time, people in the city were rising up, believing Princess Fine had betrayed them. Prax was forced to escort Fine to the square to explain. But just as she was about to speak, a Brehite resembling Arrow suddenly appeared and trampled the people in front, causing panic throughout the square as screams echoed and people fell. Prax immediately attacked, but the thing flew away, revealing that the impersonator was the jester who served the Supreme Selector, the one who had sown discord between nations. The jester didn't stop. She created another puppet resembling the princess to charge into the crowd, inciting them to revolt, accusing Fine of bringing heresy from Granger into the country, causing villagers to blindly massacre each other. Fine couldn't calm them, while the Supreme Selector appeared in his most perfect human form, declaring he would strip her of her princess title and allow the people to execute her themselves. Prax tried desperately to protect Fine, but was arrested by the royal secretary's troops. She tried to help Fine escape, but was blocked by the jester. Fine was led away in despair, while Dr. Sola confronted the Supreme Selector, who calmly revealed that he had orchestrated everything, wanting to maintain war as the only way to keep this world functioning. He was also the one who had manipulated the doctor into shooting Fine previously. The doctor activated his bind warper and attacked, but was defeated in an instant, forced to retreat to save his life. As Fine was about to be executed, Arrow arrived just in time, shattering the platform and freeing her from chains. Thanks to the doctor's warning, he knew he had been impersonated. On the Granger, Shouai worked tirelessly, operating the ship at 10 times normal speed to be ready to receive them. Arrow wanted to find the villagers to rescue them, while the jester was left for Prax to deal with. The doctor tried to lead surviving citizens away from danger, but was attacked and seriously wounded. He only had time to pass a message to Fine, warning her to be careful of the Supreme Selector before collapsing amid the ruins. He wanted the princess to continue surviving. When the royal secretary came to arrest Fine, claiming it was an internal matter, Ashley stepped forward, declaring that Granger and those aboard were now an independent nation, that they would never allow their benefactor to be executed. That declaration echoed across the battlefield, like a new oath opening at the moment when the world stood on the border between peace and destruction. Supreme Selector Rudolph was the mastermind behind Ludo's division. To protect the villagers, Dr. Sola sacrificed himself. Atli saved Fine's life from those pursuing her by declaring their battleship an independent nation. 2 months have passed since the war ended, and for the same period, no Rakuho treasures have fallen anymore, which is unprecedented in this world. During these 2 months, the Republic of Rekka's military strength has gradually weakened, with energy from bind warpers seriously declining. But above all, what surprised everyone most was that their new nation had been officially recognized as an independent country by both Ludo and Rekka. The princess thanked everyone. Thanks to them, she could walk her own path, and this was just the first step. Atli, once a brave warrior of Granger, was now chosen to become the first queen of this nation. She wore a beautiful outfit, worrying whether she was the right person. Arrow encouraged her to be confident, as she was writing the new beginning of this country. 2 months ago, the Supreme Selector had personally issued an edict allowing them to leave, as he wanted the world to have more independent countries, because more countries meant more boiling wars. Granger, once their battleship, had now landed and become a giant floating city, surrounded by fertile fields. People began building farms, expanding their living areas, and life gradually became more peaceful than ever. No more hunger, no more fear. People now only wondered who would lead them in peacetime. Elsha, Fine, Prax, and Shouai all had their own reasons to refuse the throne, so Atli, who always acted first and never abandoned anyone, was chosen by consensus. The Supreme Selector, after a period of silence, decided to address the people again. He wanted to stir up the world once more, believing that peace for too long only made people weak. The treaty signing ceremony was held on Granger, now renovated into a national palace. The Republic's king was invited, along with the former imperial secretary, now the new emperor. President Ikki was also present, amazed to see the once rejected village, now a powerful nation standing tall in the sky. Upon entering, the imperial emperor revealed a contemptuous look when he saw Princess Fine, now a council member of the new nation. Prax, the former Ludo commander, announced that all vassals present at the ceremony had chosen to submit under this nation's flag. If any force intended to attack, they would all rise to protect these vassals. The armored division formerly under her command had also declared they were leaving the Ludo Empire to follow Prax. The teenagers Arrow had saved at the farm were also present at the ceremony, eagerly helping. Thanks to Arrow, they looked much more mature. The princess and Prax were also preparing their own plans. Meanwhile, in the Republic of Rekka, 2 generals were trying to train soldiers to fight Brihites with bare hands, as most bind warpers had been lost. Kai was also forced to leave the battlefield, sitting at a research table, focusing on finding ways to activate power and understand belief particles, rather than just relying on bind warpers. Everyone was surprised that someone as dense as Kai was now reading books. During this process, he discovered something frightening. When Arrow fully awakened, he would become the cause of humanity's extinction. Kai also found another clue, but didn't have time to reveal it before Arrow and Shouai arrived. The 2 generals and Ren Shin immediately became angry, ready to attack, but the chief seal, a position second only to the king, stepped in to stop them. Shouai wondered why this position wasn't held by the fat man from before, and Kyle replied that he had fled with the treasury when he saw the Republic of Rekka defeated. Currently, he had fallen into the hands of the jester, who declared that he was the one chosen by the Supreme Selector. In the council room, Shouai began negotiations. He proposed receiving part of the Republic's territory in exchange for lasting peace. Ren strongly opposed, considering it a disguised threat. Shouai calmly replied that he wasn't foolish enough to come empty-handed, knowing how much Ren hated him. He pressed a button on his bracelet, lighting up a series of signals, and revealed that the entire area was surrounded by bombs he had planted before leaving. Ren was stunned, not knowing what was real and what was a bluff. Shouai gave a faint smile, loosened his coat, and stepped forward, forcing her to back away. Kaio intervened, telling Ren to stop as she was damaging her own honor. Meanwhile, at the signing ceremony, everything was proceeding smoothly. The Empire's emperor appeared arrogant, but dared not act foolishly, while Fine remained silent, monitoring developments through communication. Kai took the opportunity to ask Shouai about the real reason he risked returning to this land. Shouai said he needed that land to build a research facility, but Kai knew this was just an excuse. He had read ancient texts stating that, when the ship of destiny in the land of destiny awakens, everything will return to nothingness. This clearly referred to Granger and Arrow. The final part of the text was torn out, and Kai suspected Shouai was responsible. Shouai remained silent, neither denying nor confirming. At that moment, the chief seal spoke, saying the emperor was at the ceremony, and with just one command, this entire place would be massacred. To legitimize war, they only needed Ren to kill the chief seal, and the blame would fall entirely on Shouai and Arrow. Knowing he was trapped, Shouai had to tell the truth. Beneath the land he wanted was a giant battleship sleeping peacefully. As soon as he finished speaking, the ground shook with consecutive explosions, but they weren't caused by Shouai. A real battleship emerged from underground, enormous and fierce. The person controlling it was the former Chief Seal, the traitor named T. He declared that from now on, the Republic would be under his control. The puppeteer behind everything was the Supreme Selector. During the chaos, Elsha and Bit were leaving the hall when they unexpectedly encountered a mysterious person wearing a gray cloak, inviting everyone to join the Lind Faith. On the other side of the wall, T began sweeping across the Republic of Rekka's territory, observing all activities of the king and those around him. His presence made everyone both surprised and cautious, but the king seemed to enjoy this development and announced that the signing ceremony had officially ended, while declaring he would meet everyone again on the battlefield, where fate-deciding battles would take place. The others in the room all returned. Soldiers tried to shoot at T's battleship, but to no avail. Arrow stayed behind, his eyes filled with determination. He wanted to charge straight into battle immediately, despite Shouai's advice and warnings. Arrow quickly went to the cockpit to execute his attack plan, but realized that T didn't expose the cockpit clearly like previous opponents. All defensive behaviors were designed extremely sophisticatedly and skillfully, forcing Arrow to face relentless gunfire and temporarily retreat. Atlee immediately called Arrow back, reminding him they needed to discuss the mysterious person the group had just met, who had important information about the Lind Faith, and Arrow was forced to return, though his heart still burned with the intention to fight. Seeing Arrow retreat, T immediately declared that the Republic of Rekka would now have no chance against him and everyone must serve him, forcing the Chief Seal to allow soldiers to choose sides, with the top priority still being to minimize bloodshed and protect soldiers' lives. The mysterious woman found by Elsha's group claimed to be a faithful follower of the Lind Faith, a belief that celebrates births and mourns deaths of all life in Lingaland. The founder of the faith said Arrow was a newcomer and this was the ship of destiny. She explained that the founder of this faith wanted Arrow to soon reveal the truth to the world, and to do that, he would have to go to the sacred mountains outside the wall, where they would guide him there. Arrow understood this was an opportunity he couldn't miss, and the woman then turned to dust, leaving a deep impression in Shouai's mind. Shouai observed carefully and realized she was formed from belief particles, something Arrow and his teammates hadn't fully grasped yet. Neither Ludo nor Rekka had ever heard of this Lind Faith. Meanwhile, Arrow worried about the possibility that upon learning the truth, he might cause world-destroying consequences as the prophecy had said. But Shouai believed the world had changed since Arrow's appearance, so destruction or change was essentially just a continuation of the new law. While events unfolded, Republic of Rekka soldiers tried to attack T, but he fired accurately to push them back while keeping himself safe. The Emperor suddenly appeared, charging straight at T's battleship, creating tension that confused everyone. Despite T firing multiple shots, he survived. A few hours earlier, he had obtained a bind warper from Ludo's president, an item with special protective abilities. T controlled the battleship to fly high, while the Emperor created an energy bow, launched himself into the air, and dove straight down. T began to feel afraid, and the Emperor had entered Mad Dog mode, deciding to give him an honorable death. His technique destroyed T instantly, causing the ship to fall, leaving direct consequences for the entire campaign. Immediately after, T announced to the courtiers that there were still many energy-bearing bind warpers on the battleship. Everyone was excited, praising their emperor. Thanks to this, the Republic of Rekka now owned its own battleship, which concerned people due to the Republic's potential for invasion. Shouai knew it was all due to the Supreme Selector. He remained an enigma. If there was someone unpredictable, it was Supreme Rudolph. People suggested Arrow should try to learn about the Lind Faith. Ludo arrived, reporting that T's battleship had been defeated by the king, and control of Rekka had been hindered. He feared Ludo would perish if the battleship fell into Rekka's hands. However, the Supreme Selector reassured him that the Republic of Rekka's first target would be Arrow's land, while sending him a mysterious box. As soon as the evacuation order was issued and people left, he activated another battleship from underground, aimed directly at Arrow, while the Supreme Selector announced to Granger that these two battleships were gifts he sent, making Arrow wonder how the Supreme Selector knew about the ship and why he chose this moment to rise up. He asked Shouai if the ancient texts said anything about Lingaland's past. Shouai guessed it was Heaven's decision. Recognizing the importance of the Lind faith, Arrow and his teammates decided to focus on understanding it before facing the next dangers. Shouai, though uncertain whether Arrow could destroy the world or not, still advised him to stay calm to reassure everyone, ensuring the group didn't panic. He had brought everyone this far, so he wanted to go even further. The next morning, the group approached the wall, but Ludo Empire ships had pursued them, forcing the captain and division to fight back. On the other side of the wall, the Ludo Empire deployed many soldiers with flying abilities, but their main goal was just to buy time for Arrow. Prax's group was ready to face them. It seemed Ludo had committed all forces to attack the village. Arrow stood ready at the ship's bow. Shouai maneuvered to turn the ship and activated the vertical mechanism. The ship's cannon had been upgraded and fired an unavoidable beam of light, the result of 2 months of research to counter those with flying abilities. Shouai had fine-tuned it to rotate on both sides, completely clearing the Imperial forces. Having lost belief particles, the Empire's ship couldn't fly, allowing Arrow's group to continue toward the wall. Another Lind faith disciple appeared and guided them straight into the wall. Indeed, the wall let them pass through, but on the other side was another wall, signaling that challenges still continued. Rekka had acquired the flying battleship commanded by T. The bind warpers found inside had helped them regain their spirits. In another development, Ludo launched the flying battleship Maestrad and pursued the Granger Federation. Threatened by 2 forces, Granger headed straight for the Epitaph mountain range after being invited by the Lind faith to cross to the other side of the wall. They continued their journey, easily passing through 3 giant walls in succession. This was the first time Prax had traveled so far. Arrow saw they just needed to reach the distant Epitaph Mountains. Arrow worried Ludo would pursue them, but the mysterious person believed only those invited could cross the wall. Meanwhile, after their defeat, the Ludo Empire quickly gathered more bind warpers from the recently acquired battleship, determined to continue pursuing Arrow and attacking the wall. Arrow's group had nearly arrived. However, an unusual and horrifying sight appeared before them. Surrounding the mountain peak were numerous stone pillars, not natural stone but formed from skulls. Most terrifying was that on top of some pillars, they recognized Dr. Sola's face. Captain Prax ran out to examine the scene. Immediately, a mysterious man, claiming to be the high priest of the Lind faith, warned her not to touch the pillars. He explained that these faces represented souls of the dead, and the taller the pillar, the closer that soul was to heaven. He transmitted messages formed from belief particles, so flying and communicating like this was very easy. This founder possessed extraordinary faith. The high priest quickly turned his attention to Arrow. He wanted Arrow to recall his entire past and true nature. He then used a powerful magic on him, causing Arrow to writhe in intense pain. Others in the group tried to approach and help Arrow, but were blocked by some invisible force. The situation became more complicated when the Ludo Empire's ship passed through the wall and caught up, preparing to join the battle. The group considered turning back to confront and fire back at the Empire's warship, but Arrow alone charged forward, entering the battle at an astonishing speed despite everyone's attempts to stop him. As he fought, the scar on his body began to twitch and gradually heal, a sign that the power within him was being released. This recovery came with an increasingly severe state of loss of control, pushing Arrow to the threshold of being unable to restrain himself. The Empire's king sitting on the warship still showed absolute confidence. He believed Arrow was incapable of killing, a limit he couldn't cross. However, immediately after, Arrow knocked the protective bind warper ring from his hand, and then took his life. This was the first time Arrow had killed someone, and the psychological shock was immense. The truth about his destructive ability was clearly exposed. Arrow tried to leave the area immediately, but a powerful electric current held him tight. His power was now completely out of control, erupting into a destructive rage. He wiped out all the Empire's soldiers present in just moments. Everyone on the Granger was severely shocked by this terrifying and brutal power. Arrow, feeling helpless before his own power, could only beg Captain Prax to leave immediately, before he accidentally wiped her out too. Now, the truth was all too clear. They no longer had any doubts. Arrow was the one bringing destruction to the world as the prophecy had foretold. At the same time, they also realized the truth about the mysterious High Priest. He was actually the jester sent by Supreme Rudolph. The Supreme Selector had known who Arrow was from the beginning, and the purpose of this staging was for Arrow to regain all his inherent power, because he was a destroyer sent down to Lingaland by God. This world was like a tree full of ripe fruit. Lingaland was one such ripe fruit, an offering to God. If the fruit grew too large, it needed to be picked. Arrow had been sent for that purpose, but he had lost all memory of himself. Thus, all the Ludo Empire's soldiers were destroyed under Arrow's hand. Meanwhile, the stone pillars on Soul Mountain grew increasingly taller. Arrow was brought here because this place was said to be closest to God, a place where his power could be easily released. However, despite regaining his destructive power, Arrow still tried to retain his last bit of consciousness. He tried to remove the ring that had helped activate his power from his body, but his body automatically resisted that action. In a moment of lost control, Arrow fired a massive energy blast toward his own ship, but immediately managed to self-destruct and neutralize that attack. In utter desperation, he begged everyone on the ship to shoot him down, as he didn't want to see any of them die by his hand. Everyone on the ship called for Shouai's help, as he was always the one who could find solutions in seemingly deadlocked situations. Under extreme pressure, Shouai quickly made a decision. He ordered everyone to fire at Ludo's ship's bow, where the energy source Arrow was absorbing could be cut off. At the same time, he asked Arrow to fly far away to avoid harming anyone, and to buy time until they found a way to repair and control his power. Captain Prax decided to go outside to deal with the external situation. Fine wanted to follow to support her, but Captain Prax stopped her because Fine still couldn't fly. They were blocked by the Jester, but Atlee timely used her ability to bind her feet, creating an opportunity for Captain Prax to attack with full force. The Jester was forced to give up and retreat. Meanwhile, Bit had shot down the ship holding Arrow, releasing him to disappear into the sky. After resolving the emergency, Shouai wanted to return to the mountain to seek more information, but Supreme Rudolph had timely built a giant wall, blocking their path. Shouai once again faced heavy pressure in determining the next step. This was the first time everyone had seen Shouai lose his composure to this extent. However, Bit timely rescued Shouai when he announced that he had kept some ruins from the ancient village, and among them was the Rakuho that had sent Arrow to them. Supreme Selector Rudolph revealed that Arrow was the destroyer sent by God. With his power awakened, Arrow wiped out the Ludo army in an instant. While Arrow was desperate, Shouai found a way to fight back and stop him. Arrow had now flown far away from the Granger ship, trying to find an isolated space to solve the problem himself. He tried every possible way to remove the bind warper that had activated his destructive power from his body, but each attempt was unconsciously resisted by his own body. On the Granger ship, there was still no new movement from the Supreme Selector or the Ludo Empire. Rekka's cameras showed he was north of the border wall. Thanks to Shouai accessing Rekka's network system, they could at least monitor Arrow. Their communication with Arrow had been completely cut off, making Shouai and his teammates temporarily relieved. They could be certain that for now, Supreme Rudolph would no longer pay attention to them, as he had achieved his temporary goal of releasing Arrow's power. However, this peace didn't last long. Arrow, in his uncontrolled state, accidentally flew to the border of the Republic of Rekka and unintentionally caused the death of some soldiers there, making him even more desperate. The others on the Granger ship still carried deep concerns about opposing what the Supreme Selector called God. Atlee worried whether she was challenging God by helping Arrow. The existence of the destroyer and the horrifying prophecies weighed heavily on their minds. When peeking into the laboratory, Bit saw Shouai training like mad. Everyone reassured each other with their combat experience. They had faced many powerful opponents before, so the fear of God, though great, couldn't make them back down completely. More importantly, they knew that Shouai certainly had a specific strategy ready to deal with this situation. Indeed, Shouai was operating his mind at maximum speed, analyzing all available data. He had a strategy, a complex plan requiring absolute coordination, and he needed Fine's help, as her role in this plan was crucial and only she could perform it. Meanwhile, the King of the Republic of Rekka had met again with Supreme Selector Rudolph, who claimed to be the messenger of the Supreme Being. He had revealed to the king the true nature of the god he served. However, the king didn't care about what he preached. He only saw the Great Wall surrounding Lingaland as the only god he needed to care about. Rudolph prepared to tell the Emperor the reason God decided to destroy Lingaland. The reason was that the Emperor shouldn't exist. He had progressed beyond God's will, gradually influencing others who also grew stronger. Rudolph's plot was to reveal Arrow's location to the king so he would go combat him. With his bellicose nature and indomitable will, the king decided to defeat Supreme Rudolph and then overthrow what the Supreme called God. Meanwhile, Shouai was preparing to tell Fine his idea. The Emperor then handed over full control of the newly acquired warship to the Chief Seal, and the ship took off, heading straight into battle. On the Granger, Atli and Elsha brought food to supply the villagers who were working. After everything that had happened, the people's trust in Atli, Elsha, and the Granger Federation had been completely reinforced. The initial worry had now turned into solid faith in their protective abilities. Meanwhile, the giant wall that the Supreme had erected to block Granger was gradually being lowered. Arrow, though in an uncontrolled state, was still trying to retain some consciousness to avoid harming anyone else. As soon as the wall was completely lowered, Shouai's group continued their journey. Bit, feeling useless in these complex combat situations, went to Shouai to complain and request a mission. Shouai reassured him, saying he was the most important key to the team. Arrow had now flown to the height limit he could endure, trying to break through the space barrier. He discovered a large hole in the sky, a Rakuho drop hole, and decided to enter it. However, before he could orient himself, he was pulled out of that hole by the Jester. The Jester threw him down. Arrow fell straight down and landed right in front of the Republic of Rekka's warship. The King of the Republic was about to charge up to deal with Arrow immediately, as he considered Arrow to be God's hunting dog, a threat that needed to be eliminated. But Captain Prax timely asked them to stop, trying to prevent an unnecessary confrontation. Right after, Shouai's group also arrived. Shouai quickly negotiated with the king, expressing his desire to prove that he also had enough strength and strategy to confront this king. With his inherent bellicose nature, the king accepted the proposal. He allowed Shouai to confront Arrow first. If Shouai and his teammates defeated Arrow, the king would be their next opponent. This allowed Shouai's entire group to freely implement their plan, as the king would not intervene. Fine, with her crucial role in Shouai's plan, would be the one to charge the cannon. Two of Captain Prax's subordinates attacked the princess, allowing her to absorb energy and fire it back at Arrow. However, even though Arrow was in destroyer form, he easily blocked that attack. Nevertheless, Fine succeeded in approaching him. She took this opportunity to have her other personality grab and bind Arrow's hand tightly. This collision caused Arrow to break out of his destructive state and return to normal. Fine had convinced her other personality to help Arrow in the upcoming battle. Arrow was able to meet Shouai again and extended his hand for Shouai to grab. However, Shouai was clearly aware of a truth. Even though Arrow had returned to his normal human form, the destructive energy still lurked within his body, and even a light touch could cause Shouai to be wiped out. And so Shouai disappeared right before Arrow's eyes. As soon as Arrow touched him, Shouai disintegrated into fragments of light. Rudolph arrogantly claimed that humans could not defeat God. Although Shouai was confident in his intelligence, God was still a force too far beyond reach. Arrow was now completely panicked, feeling horrified by the destructive power within himself. He thought Rudolph was right. He was the destroyer of the world. The Jester continued to provoke him, forcing him to transform. It was all part of her plan. In desperation, he made a final decision. He would personally eliminate Supreme Rudolph, the one who had arranged everything and made him become the destroyer. Arrow then flew away at a terrifying speed, carrying a life or death determination. As soon as Arrow flew away, the Jester, playing the role of the Lind High Priest, intended to follow to continue luring him. Finesse intervened just in time. She asked Captain Prax to return to the Ludo Empire to evacuate the people before the Supreme targeted them. Prax understood the urgency and rushed away immediately. While the Jester continued to pursue, Ren charged forward to block her. Both Ren and Kai wanted to deal with the Jester to avenge Shouai, the close friend who had just disappeared. Kai realized how wrong he had been to underestimate Shouai's aspirations and ideals. Now, he also felt sorry for Shouai for being harmed by his own pursued goal and pushed into a dangerous situation. Kai continuously attacked relentlessly, causing the Jester to shatter into many pieces and explode, temporarily eliminating this threat. Despite their different approaches, he realized that he and Shouai shared the same dream. Shu had risked his life walking the path he believed in, so he wouldn't allow anyone to mock his friend. Kai would continue the dream that Shouai had temporarily set aside, which was to create a world where the poor could also live happily. Everyone on the Granger was now in a state of confusion and extreme bewilderment without Shouai and Arrow. They had been too dependent on the intelligence and strength of both. They had come this far thanks to Shu and Arrow, so preventing the apocalypse seemed beyond their capabilities. However, Bit asserted that even without those two leaders, they still had to act. He argued that over time, the group had also changed, becoming stronger and more resilient. They would rather confront God than continue to endure perpetual poverty and oppression. The princess suggested taking the battleship back to Ludo to prevent the people from getting caught in the battle between Rudolph and Rekka. Even with no tomorrow and being pursued, Fine didn't want to abandon them. Bit timely took out the bind warper that Shouai had given him before disappearing. With new determination, the group set off to return to the Ludo Empire to confront the Supreme and evacuate the people. Captain Prax had now reached the Empire. She tried to tell people to run away, but they no longer had any faith in her, the princess, or any warnings from the Empire. In the urgent situation, she was forced to use violence to threaten them, compelling them to evacuate quickly. She then encountered Supreme Rudolph. He believed that letting humans struggle in despair, deprived of hope, was more interesting than any battle. He revealed the terrible truth about how he had framed her brother, making Prax furious. She charged to attack, but was completely and easily blocked and neutralized by him. The Supreme saw that Prax had reactions and actions identical to her brother's when learning the harsh truth. She frantically charged forward, trying to inflict damage, but was repeatedly knocked away mercilessly. Prax decided to use the big cannon to fire, a powerful attack. However, the Supreme blocked it and grabbed her. Just as he was about to crush Prax, Arrow arrived just in time to rescue her. Arrow declared he would use his destructive power to eliminate the Supreme. Supreme Rudolph seemed amused. He considered dying at the hands of God's messenger a blessing, an honor that couldn't be refused. However, Arrow couldn't hit the Supreme at all, making him even more smug. He believed God didn't want him to die yet, so Arrow couldn't touch him. Arrow was locked by an energy stream, unable to move. The Supreme also didn't have time to continue playing with Prax, as one of his distinguished guests had arrived. It was the Republic of Rekka's battleship. The king had ordered hundreds of bind warpers to be taken out. He alone wore more than 20 on his body, showing extraordinary determination to fight. He and everyone rushed out of the ship, ready to battle. Although now everyone could fly thanks to bind warpers, Kai still kept Ren by his side, making her his wings. Supreme Rudolph had controlled Arrow, forcing him to charge and attack the king with a disintegration beam. However, the king blocked Arrow's destructive beam and even knocked him away. The Supreme continuously made Arrow fire destructive beams everywhere, but the Emperor countered them all, causing the destructive beams to turn back toward the Supreme. He had to summon several giant energy arms to block the attacks. Arrow, now being controlled, wanted the king to finish him off, as after losing Shouai, he no longer cared about anything. The king strangled him, and Arrow's body gradually faded away, similar to how Shouai had disappeared. However, in the end, the king was reborn with a younger, more vibrant body, holding Arrow's sword in his hand. He decided to use God's own weapon against God's henchmen. The Supreme was forced into a position where he had to fight seriously, no longer maintaining a smug attitude. He took out his bind warper and transformed into a complete battle armor. Not only that, he also created an additional battleship exclusively for himself. His battleship continuously fired shots around, bombarding a large area, creating a merciless battle. In that difficult situation, Fine arrived, using her power to restore energy and spirit to everyone. If God wanted destruction, Fine didn't need him anymore. Arrow briefly explained the situation to everyone on the ship, saying he would win, but that was still not enough to deal with the Supreme and his battleship. He had activated a barrier zone, enclosing his battleship. In that dangerous and difficult situation, Bit stepped forward. He took out the ring that Shouai had left behind. The ring expanded enormously and merged with the Granger battleship. From then on, their ship transformed into a giant fighting robot, ready to confront Supreme Rudolph. 3 hours earlier, Shouai had given Bit a bind warper. He had always been watching him, curious about how despite lacking power himself, just having Bit around was enough to make others stronger. Bit had earned Shouai's absolute trust, not only for his technical abilities, but because he always maintained unity and faith throughout the crew, even in the most desperate moments. Bit's faith was his trust in everyone around him. Atlee also transformed to help. At this point, Kai understood why Shouai trusted them. While Bit focused on controlling the newly merged giant robot to handle the energy arms of the Supreme's battleship, Fine took the opportunity to restore everyone. Her ability, though convenient and powerful, directly harmed her. Each time she healed someone, Fine had to endure the pain and injuries that person was bearing, a silent sacrifice. The king of the Republic of Rekka, witnessing Fine's courage and pain, decided not to let her efforts go to waste. He charged straight ahead, rushing into the area where the Supreme was sheltering, determined to drag him out of the battleship. The Supreme blocked the king's attack and then detached himself from the battleship to fully enjoy a one-on-one battle. The king, with his extensive battlefield experience, quickly realized that the Supreme was connected to the battleship by an energy cord, indicating a vital link between him and the ship. Immediately, everyone else, including the two generals and Kai, rushed to attack that connection. However, the cord was abnormally hard and invulnerable. Even their strongest attacks couldn't scratch it. Meanwhile, the king was continuously assaulted by the Supreme's relentless attacks, forcing Fine to constantly heal him, pushing her to her limits of endurance. The Supreme recognized this weakness. He launched a wide-area attack, a deadly move aimed at suppressing Fine's healing ability, and also to see how long she could hold out before completely collapsing. Bit, in this precarious situation, came up with a bold idea. He decided to merge the battleships of Ludo, Rekka, and Edger together, creating an even more powerful and larger robot. When the fusion was complete, everyone could feel the terrible power that had just been released. Bit believed this was why Shouai always wanted flying battleships, because their combined power was limitless. The power from the merged battleship was enough to completely sever the connection between the Supreme and his battleship. At the same time, Bit also fired a barrage of missiles at the Supreme, forcing him into a defensive position. Shouai had calculated everything himself. Everyone had to admire him as a genius. The king remarked that Supreme Rudolph was still bound by the laws and rules of this world, so they still had a chance to win. He and Arrow joined forces to charge forward. The Supreme saw that the king was gradually being destroyed by Arrow's destructive power, but he was still using his will and faith to restore his body. The king shouted at Arrow not to listen to the Supreme's nonsense and to continue attacking. Arrow activated the booster on the back of his sword and charged forward with the king, pushing back the Supreme. The king used his classic ultimate technique. He shot himself like an energy arrow, flying straight and piercing through the Supreme. Everyone rejoiced because they had finally won. Supreme Rudolph showed no sign of pain. Instead, he expressed gratitude. He confessed that he had deliberately allowed himself to be stabbed. His purpose was to release Arrow back to his original form as the Destroyer. He believed that everyone's arrogance would destroy Lingaland. Immediately, Arrow grew sharp spikes that pierced the king's body. Arrow could only apologize to the king helplessly. As others rushed to help, the Jester had returned. She had unlimited regeneration ability, as her power would exist until the end of this world, but the Emperor refused to go down easily. He fell onto the Supreme and was determined that, even if he died, he would take the Supreme's power with him. He delivered a final stab and pulled all the bind warpers out of the Supreme's body, weakening him extremely. Before disappearing, he left a final message for his people, that fighting spirit determines everything about humans, and even if the opponent is a god, they must never give up. The barrier around the Supreme completely disappeared, and the Supreme ship then exploded. Everyone shed tears, lamenting that the Emperor was truly the King of Kings. That evening, they all stood before the ruins of the battlefield. They hoped that later they could give the king, who had sacrificed heroically, a proper and dignified funeral. They had searched all day but found no trace of Arrow and the two villains, the Supreme and the Jester, anywhere. The princess didn't think Supreme Rudolph could die so easily. They decided to expand their search area together. Suddenly, the kids from the farm called, reporting that they were seeing Arrow wandering around and destroying everything. He was now completely hopeless and helpless, as no one could stop his destructive power anymore. Kai had flown there to find him. He was confident that he was fully capable of defeating the Destroyer. He then engaged in combat. Having learned from the king, he could block Arrow's disintegration beam. Additionally, he had a skill he had learned. It was creating a dark orb and throwing it at Arrow. This orb caused his body to petrify and become unable to recover. Kai threw several more orbs at Arrow, and Arrow felt that he could finally die, ending all suffering. But suddenly, somehow, a giant gate appeared. Shouai jumped out from it, an unexpected return. However, this Shouai was the size of two merged battle armors, an image beyond all imagination. The giant Shouai performed an unexpected and decisive intervention. He did something to Arrow, a powerful and immediate impact that helped him escape the destructive state and regain control. Immediately after, Arrow's body began to transform. The sharp spikes and battle robot form disappeared. and he returned to his normal human shape. Kai, after witnessing the whole event, was amazed. He demanded an explanation from Shouai, as the Shouai he knew would never be so enormous. Actually, that giant body was Shouai's faith form, formed from his will and scientific data. The real Shouai was on the Granger ship, remotely controlling this faith form. He explained that 3 days ago, when Bit came to him to complain about his own uselessness, Shouai had shown him what he was researching. It was a device that allowed him to transform into a material form similar to the battle armors. He had decided to risk this experiment to see if Fine could completely save Arrow. If not, he was ready to let himself be disintegrated and sent to God, hoping to discover something about the ultimate truth. He only told this to Bit. If he hadn't returned after 3 days, he needed Bit to cut the power source to bring him back. Shouai had really returned, and Bit immediately informed him about the situation outside. Bit said that the Republic's people wanted to take Arrow back for trial, as he was directly related to the king's death. Arrow, after what he had caused, seemed ready to accept punishment for killing so many people. Atlee disagreed with this decision. She tried to protect Arrow and wanted to take him back, but her stubbornness could easily lead to a new conflict between Granger and the Republic. The tense situation became even more complicated when 2 strange boys arrived. They declared that this was their territory and demanded that Kai release the person. Seeing the situation at risk of unnecessary conflict, Shouai proposed a reconciliation condition. He would tell the Republic the secret of this world in exchange for them agreeing to let Arrow go. They then boarded the ship for dinner and negotiations. Ren maintained high vigilance, standing nearby to closely monitor Arrow. Arrow, feeling guilty, told her that if she wanted, she could just stab him and be done with it. A desperate challenge. After stabilizing the situation, Shouai began to explain the true nature of the world. He said that Lingaland was basically one world among countless worlds that God had created. These worlds were divided into many different major and minor branches, and their world was one of those minor branches. All worlds led to a common point, which was God's world. God collected the power particles created by the worlds to sustain his life. Basically, God needed to consume their faith to exist. What they saw outside the giant wall was the faith of the dead people gathered in one place, a giant food for the deities to absorb. Shouai continued to explain. Any world with abnormal behavior that risked affecting the supply of faith would be considered a threat and eliminated. This meant that now that Arrow was no longer the destroyer, God would take the next action to restore order. Faced with this horrifying truth, everyone on the ship decided to fight against God to protect this world. Fine still wanted to try using peaceful words to persuade, but everyone knew well enough that the Supreme and God would not listen to any negotiation. Shouai revealed another important piece of information. He explained that the layer of flowing metal under the rock surface that they used for propulsion to fly was actually a sophisticated sensor system. If Shouai could deceive this sensor system, they might have the next move in this life or death battle. Shouai then presented his idea. They would try to go back outside the wall, as that was where faith was sent to God. However, how could they exit the world when there were height-limiting devices placed in the sky? Arrow suddenly remembered. When he entered the treasure drop hole, he saw a strange space outside. Based on this reasoning, Shouai could predict that the location he had reached was the tube to God's area. The 2 strange boys proposed an alliance between the countries. They believed that now everyone shared the common goal of protecting this world from the deities. They were concerned about whether Arrow would regain his destructive power if he returned there. Shouai confirmed that it was still possible, but the possibility of their world being destroyed was even higher. Arrow now wanted to know why he lost his memory and wanted to return to the other side of the wall, but Shouai had not yet figured that out. Arrow felt burdened. He had killed too many, and now he didn't know what he needed to do to atone. Kai found this indecisiveness unbearable. He thought that if Arrow continued like this, he might as well die. He challenged Arrow as a man. He then took out his sword to duel Arrow, while Arrow was unarmed. Captain Prax didn't let Fine intervene, as she knew this was a battle of honor that Arrow needed to overcome himself. Kai then charged to attack, but Arrow dodged. He didn't understand why Arrow wanted to die, but now dodged attacks to cling to life. He found Arrow too indecisive, and he called him the one who had killed the king, not to blame the Supreme. He then attacked relentlessly, but Arrow still defended unconsciously, not understanding his own actions. Until then, he realized the reason for him to live was the friends he had met. When Kai saw that Arrow had started to fight back, he drew the king's weapon to attack him. but Arrow blocked it with his bare hands. Arrow now understood why he fought alongside them despite being the destroyer. That the strong will to survive of the people he met had changed him. Thanks to them, he had become who he was today, and now he would bear the lives of all those who had fallen. He had fist fought with Kai for a while, a battle with no clear winner. When Kai turned away, the two girls, Atlee and Fine, rushed to embrace him. Arrow was confident that he had returned to being the person he was before. He pretended not to remember Bit, but how could he forget the person who had given him this name? After his honor duel with Arrow, Kai met with Shouai again. Kai thought Shouai would view his recent actions as a test for Arrow, a way to help the destroyer regain his humanity. But Shouai surprised him. He said that he was actually testing Kai himself. Shouai expressed his belief that after the king's passing, Kai was the most worthy person to ascend to leadership of the Republic of Rekka. He believed this would happen and gave Kai things he had prepared in advance for this situation. Kai also realized that Shouai had been hiding his scar from years ago, a personal secret he had never shared. Kai committed to helping Shouai fulfill his greatest dream. Ren also sought out Shouai. He noticed she had matured significantly, and her stealth skills had improved. The entire group made a final resolution together. They would defeat even God to assert their position and right to self-determination in this world. The group then set off, returning to the mountain outside the Great Wall. When they reached the wall, they passed through it easily without encountering any obstacles. Fine now knew clearly about what had happened to Dr. Sola, and how he had been wrongfully accused in the past, a tragedy of deception. The army then observed a solemn moment of silence for all those who had sacrificed themselves in the battle and under this cruel religious system. Supreme Rudolph appeared once again. He declared that he would live until the world was completely destroyed. He explained that this place had been abandoned by God, so he no longer needed to conserve the faith energy here. He then summoned a Rakuho, but this was not a treasure but a destruction machine. The machine drilled into the ground and began pulling the giant wall toward the center, creating a sweeping force to destroy the entire world. He wanted them to witness with their own eyes the merciless destruction of everything they loved. He then absorbed the faith pillars from the mountain next to the wall to create a giant sword. He was trying to provoke them, but the group remained vigilant and not easily trapped. Seeing they wouldn't act, he threw the giant sword at them, pinning them to the ground. Shouai told everyone to quickly remove their bind warpers to escape, but Supreme Rudolph's energy spear had taken control of their bodies, making it impossible for them to escape. He announced to the entire world that this was the appropriate punishment for opposing God. Meanwhile, Kai's Republican forces were bravely fighting the Jester and trying to stop the destruction machine pulling the wall. On this side, Arrow used his power to separate the Supreme's energy spear, returning it to its original faith towers, freeing his comrades. Everyone joined forces, blasting away the Supreme Selector and immediately turning back to stop the destructive weapon destroying the world. They couldn't make the machine stop. The Supreme then returned, determined to ruin all their efforts. He had reverted to his true form, a more powerful combat form, and called forth a new battleship. Shouai realized that this could be hindered, because otherwise he wouldn't need to stop them. Shouai told Arrow to combine with Kai, while the Granger battleship would deal with the Supreme. Arrow transformed into a giant sword and told Kai to use the black hole skill like before. Kai had learned the king's technique of shooting himself like an arrow and activated the bow, shooting arrows straight ahead. Kai amplified the black hole technique, creating an extremely powerful attack that neutralized the destructive weapon. But the Supreme refused to give up. He summoned another destruction machine. Shouai instructed Arrow and Kai to aim directly at the exit from the world. They punched a large hole in it and flew straight out into space. The Granger battleship followed, while the others kept Supreme Rudolph behind, preventing him from pursuing. When flying out of Lingaland space, they saw many other weapons and devices of God here. Arrow and Kai quickly destroyed all these weapons. Finally, they reached the energy wall separating them from the divine. Kai attacked the wall, but it showed no sign of damage. At that moment, someone who looked like Arrow suddenly appeared and transformed into battle armor to stop them. Everyone guessed that he was the god of all these worlds, and indeed, his face looked very much like Arrow's. While Arrow, Kai, and the Granger battleship were fighting in outer space, Supreme Rudolph continued to launch relentless attacks and torment those remaining in Lingaland. Despair engulfed the battlefield. However, Supreme Rudolph's battleship suddenly shattered. This event was an inexplicable signal. proving that Arrow had created some effect on Supreme Rudolph, even though he was tens of thousands of miles away. The group, seeing this rare opportunity, surged forward to attack, coordinating their forces to try to completely destroy his remaining battleship. Finally, they succeeded, but Supreme Rudolph's true form remained there, undiminished. He fired back at everyone with terrible energy blasts, creating consecutive explosions on the battlefield. Suddenly, the god whom Supreme Rudolph worshipped appeared majestically. His presence brought an invisible pressure, choking all fighting spirit. The deity summoned copies of the very people who were fighting, forcing them to face themselves. They couldn't harm the god. All attacks were absorbed or neutralized. The deity then revealed the true nature of all mankind, a secret buried for millennia. The god explained that humans had long ago migrated from their homeland, but they had been infected with a terrible plague. Only one individual survived, a newborn child, and that child was the true god. The deity continued to explain that God needed an enormous amount of faith to develop and sustain life. Therefore, this world system, Lingaland, was established as a chain of energy and material collection. The reason they were being eliminated was because the king and the people of Lingaland had grown too powerful, threatening the balance and God's faith collection system. This harsh truth was a great shock. No one could understand why becoming strong, being self-reliant, was a crime worthy of destruction. The group still resisted fiercely, not accepting this unreasonable destruction. The deity, to teach them a lesson about weakness, cut off the faith system, preventing everyone from drawing energy to fight and recover. They fell into a state of exhaustion, pushing them into an extremely dangerous situation. While Fine was in danger, about to be defeated by energy depletion, at this critical moment, her dark opposing personality and the Emperor of Rekka suddenly reappeared. Both had died, but before they could be sent to God, Supreme Rudolph had destroyed the Mountain of Souls, which contained the souls. When Arrow restored them from Supreme Rudolph's energy spear earlier, they had enough faith energy to return to fight. Although this return was unstable, Prax's division and the group of girls joined forces, coordinating their battle tactics to defeat the Jester once more. The king and Fine's second personality knew they would soon disappear, as their return was only temporary. Sustained by a fragile source of faith, they decided to fight with all their might in this final time, a brave sacrifice for the world. The two then joined forces, using combined power to trap both Supreme Rudolph and the deity, shooting them out into space. The king and Fine's dark personality followed. Dr. Sola informed them that Arrow out there needed more faith power to fight, as only faith could counter God. Supreme Rudolph knew this was his end, but he decided to enjoy it, facing death arrogantly. With a large source of faith energy, Shouai quickly directed Bit to work. His faith transformed the deity's replica battleship into pure power, and Shouai unified everything. Arrow was also allowed to grow large by absorbing faith. However, the deity also split into many copies, and also grew large similar to Arrow and the battle armor, creating a battle between giants. In this final battle, Arrow made a completely different decision, a choice beyond his role as the destroyer. Instead of destroying God, he decided to help and nurture the true God child to keep their world existing. The proof was that he had transformed a village into people who defeated the deity's pawns. They then joined forces, combining their powers and creating a total force attack that destroyed all the deity's incarnations. The deity had not completely fallen, but God, the child who had slept for thousands of years, chose to trust and allow Arrow to nurture it. Thus, the deity disappeared, as it was no longer necessary. They were then brought into God's domain and met the child. It had slept for thousands of years, and now it would give them the coordinates of Arrow's homeland. Arrow and Shouai wished to return the God child to its homeland to end all problems and terminate the cycle of destruction. So, a month later, Arrow's group embarked on a space journey, an unprecedented adventure. They left the repair of the world to Kai and his people, with hopes for a peaceful Lingaland. Shouai entrusted Kai to Ren's care, an absolute trust in Ren's leadership ability and feelings. After that, they set off for God's homeland, according to the coordinates provided. Those coordinates led them to the third planet in the solar system, which is Earth.